To me, it's nauseating. It's absolutely nauseating because
multiple mental health clinicians said that Derek had limited intellectual ability and was not capable of consenting.
Congratulations.
Boom. Right? Change soccer in America forever.
Hella bugs out here. Bro, I can't keep caressing my leg, boy. Trying to get freaky out here.
Your step siblings and also husband and wife.
Yeah, I can't do any of that stuff.
That's right. Yeah, in fact, soccer can crawl up my asshole and die for all I care.
And that's what the kids do, but I'm a little older. I like that shirt tucked in.
Who the hell told you that would not be seen on television?
Anal sex is the process of inserting a penis into the anus of another partner.
Oh, shit. Well, no straight red card. I love that Czar's like, Derek can't consent to sex? No, apparently I have an intellectual disability, Czar, which we will cover, during this show. Welcome. It's been a crazy weekend. And I've said this to Brett before. I have no fucking idea why things go viral on X. I mean, I'm an X newbie for the most part. I have no idea. I mean, I did not think clipping that and putting that up was going to go that nutso, but it did.
I could have told you it would have, because all it takes really is a handful of people reposting and quote tweeting it, and all of a sudden their audience, their people who are following them are going to see it, and so forth. And it's just
that easy. Then why don't I do it all the time?
Other stuff you do isn't interesting, I guess.
Yeah, it's boring. It's too much about rock and roll music and. I sent Lexi a song this week and asked him if he was a fan of it. It's from the 80s and 90s, and now I can't even remember which song it was. But anyhow, welcome to the show. As always, sponsored by Dick's Mayonnaise. We're hoping that they hang around and continue to sponsor the show. We got a crap load to get to, people.
Yep. Jeff says, skip the fluff. Let's go Gonzo on the Greg hate. We're going to skip the fluff. Or we have a couple soccer fluff pieces that are a little more lighthearted to talk about.
Sure.
But as a whole, pretty much. Chicago fellow wants to know, is Brett in an abandoned home in Gary? Feel like it.
Yeah, it looks like it. Odd background to pick. Yeah, that's for sure. But it's not the first time you've used that. Right?
It's not. It's the current feeling.
So yeah,
in general,
exactly. We're going to get to everything. The Chirundolo thing. There are a lot of things to discuss. The Olympics as well, so we'll discuss that. I made a sort of out of nowhere appearance on Edgar Moreno's thing. We'll get to that, and what I typed and had to take back and apologize for. And everybody's like, well, no one's going to see your apology. Well, 40,000 people have seen my apology, so that's not too bad.
More people probably saw your apology than Carlisle's retraction of the blackmail word, this article.
Yeah, well, he never retracted the word blackmail. And now I don't think he just took the word out.
Oh.
He removed the word from the article, but it was already too late. And in this case, it might be up to. But it's a technicality. It's semantics. I was reminded by my source, you didn't describe it correctly, and you need to fix that. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, I'll do it. But you'll find out later, apparently, Pete, Tack, and our show, no one talks to us on our show. Like, we have no friends. We have no friends who actually do journalism that we talk to or have had on the show for years now. And especially since we've come back, we've had people on who are...
Derek, we're just clowns. We're clowns with the camera. We're here to entertain people. That's all we are.
Apparently,
yes.
Yes. Derek. Yes, that is what we are.
I'm going to go to my little tricycle, little honk horn.
Okay, you little... clown nose. All right, well, let's get it off to the get it off. Let's get started. That's a better way to put it.
Let's start a little lighthearted fluff.
Okay.
We've never been short of overhyped starlets, young players coming through the woodwork that people put all their hopes and dreams into taking U.S. soccer to the highest.
Okay. That's weird.
Everything. And what happens to those players when they don't hit that pinnacle, that peak that we set them on? When they don't meet that, history's rewritten. We talk about how they weren't that great and how they weren't really that hyped. So I wanted to bring this up. I saw this and I found it hysterical.
Okay.
So Letty says, Freddy Adu was never hyped. He just played in the league at a young age. That's the worst comparison to make. Obed has already had massive success with the Sounders.
Yes, this guy obviously wasn't around back then.
Well, he also talked about how Freddie's was never hyped for his skills. He was just young in the league, and I was just like, okay, wait a second,
hold on,
you're fucking trolling us, right?
He was on every major paper. He was on every major magazine cover. He did commercials with Pele. Yes, he was hyped.
He was a fucking poster child for overhyping players.
He was.
In fact, that people go back to that to say we shouldn't be overhyping these players. We shouldn't be putting all this weight on their shoulders. Let them develop. This is something we talk about with Sullivan right now, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hey guys, he's barely played a minute as a professional.
Yeah,
he's going to be on the loan army over at City. Just give him a moment, for the love of God.
And let's be clear. Freddie did really well with our youth teams. Okay. I mean, so at the beginning, it looked like, the hype could be possibly true. But I think a lot of people learned their lesson with Freddie, and you thought they did, but here we are with the Kevin Sullivan thing. And like you said, it's probably a good idea to just let Kevin, develop on his own. Of course, a little difficult for people not to notice when he's posting up pictures of himself on X or Instagram, right? And that's when I think he's kind of bringing that pressure onto himself, but maybe he can handle it. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. There's not really much to talk about this. It was a silly comment made, and it got called out because, again, anybody knows Freddy Adu.
You just had to be alive back then.
I mean, shit, you don't even need that. People will tell you. Go to Big Soccer. There's a massive thread for him.
I know.
It's probably archived at this point because he's been retired for so long.
It's like 20 years ago when the hype started, right? So a lot of people were barely born that follow soccer 20 years ago, or they were children. They don't really remember it. Would you all bring Freddy Adu on the show? I would be happy to bring Freddy Adu on the show if I thought he had something to offer.
Well, I think bringing Freddy on would be similar to when we had not all of Lawless, not all of when all this art of videos, where we talked about a portion of their history, what their experience when they went here and did this. It'd be great to have Freddy on here to talk about the overhyping, how that weighed on him, how he went to Benfica and just traveled around to different teams for the remainder of his 15 years as a pro.
I mean, there's a lot of background out there on him. He did a whole article, I think it was in Sports Illustrated not even that long ago, about why he failed and what the pressures were and how he failed himself. So there you go. You look that up if you want to. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
I'm sure the show would be banging on viewers if we did get him on here. So
I mean, I say that, but in the same time, I was trying to find this Bill Archer article from Big Soccer from like 13 years ago, and they're gone. All of them are gone.
Aren't our shows scrapped too?
They're all gone. All my articles, all Bill's articles, all Dan Loney's article. I mean, I can't find them anywhere. So maybe they're archived somewhere, and I just don't know about it.
Freddy Adu has been pretty active lately on US Talk. On the X. He's been pretty active posting there.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I should go follow him and see what he's got to say.
A lot of what I've seen of him saying has made sense. I mean, he's not beating around the bush, but he's also not talking. He's not a talking head in the sense that he's going to stir the pot.
Didn't he
saying how it is?
Didn't he get a tryout at CBS?
Yeah, he was there for one game, wasn't it?
A couple games, or maybe a show or two.
He was out there for at least one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Enough of Freddie.
Let's talk about Derek.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so here's my apology. Just wanted to apologize for saying that there was an official vote by the Leadership Council to be rid of John Brooks. There was no such vote. They were asked for their consultation, or however you want to use that word, as a verb or, as a descriptor. So I got that wrong. There was no vote. Now,
there are no pieces of paper handed out to everybody. But Gregg and company went up to everybody and said, "Hey, do you think we should bring Brooks back?" No, I don't think we should bring Brooks back.
That did not happen right after Honduras. First of all, there was no time for any meeting to happen then, and it didn't happen until like a couple windows later, as far as I understand it. So,
did you see my on that the whole back and forth? I forgot who you had it with about Brooks being not injured, his back spasms, etc.
Oh, that back spasm thing was, yeah.
Did you see? I think I sent it to you in a text. My response to it all, because the guy you were fighting with back and forth said, "Well, this is bullshit. He got injured. He played for the first 45 minutes of the game prior to the window and then left at halftime. And as it turns out, it's backwards. He didn't start. He came in at halftime.
He came in at halftime, played 45.
Yeah, and
then they announced him. They announced him on the team September 29th. Okay. So that was announced, and then he played a game. He played the last half of the October 2nd game. At some point, he must have had some sort of discussion with Gregg, but then on October 4th, he was withdrawn for back spasms, which is really not typically something back spasms can happen one day and go away the next. And he did 2 weeks later. He was started and went 90. So we always found that to be a little questionable.
Well, but doesn't that sound eerily similar to why Gio didn't play against Wales?
Yeah, but
Gio couldn't play because he was injured. And then Gio's like, I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah, and he made the roster list too. So he just actually traveled with the team, whereas Brooks did not. And this isn't really a show about John Brooks because, we've talked about that till we were blue in the face. And no, I do not expect anybody to call him up while he's not playing for Benfica at all. I do not expect that. He did, go back to Wolfsburg and finish out the season pretty strong and still never got called up again. And it was always a different reason.
It's chronicled on our shows. We talked about, you're right. We talked about that ad nauseum. Yeah. The big thing is, I think what you found from this whole ordeal by going on to Edgar's space and talking about this is that there was a lot of people who didn't know about this.
No, they didn't. And then the reason the next time was he wasn't fit or he didn't play well. And then the next time he didn't fit. And then the next time is he didn't fit into U.S. men's national team plans. The way they
gave him a couple things he could work on for the next window.
Because he said this about Ream too. We plan to play a high line. Well, both those guys are fairly slow. And,
understatement of the year. I agree.
But that didn't seem to hurt Ream later on. No. When he decided, oh shit, I've really got nobody who can play out of the back. So I need Tim Ream. And you could always say, if you're Gregg, well, we got Tim Ream. We don't need Brooks. We got that position covered. And so, all this could be, he could have got away with it a lot easier than he made it on himself. And then, even when BJ, he had to come back and talk about it twice in his press conference, the pre-conference and then the pre-game camp conference, then pre-game conference. He had to talk about Brooks twice because he realized his answer was not maybe in line with the party discussion points. So, All right, but that's enough John Brooks. Listen, John Brooks, I wish him the best. I wish him well. And at some point, he is 5 years younger, I think, than Ream, but he needs to go find a team, and then he's got to start and be regular starter, although that didn't seem to matter for Ream because he didn't regularly start by the last half of the season at Fulham, and it didn't seem to matter for Gio either. So is that a thing or isn't? I don't know.
Well, we'll see what happens if we do get a new coach in the end. how that's going to pan out.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So another hot topic, whenever you bring it up on the Twitter, is the pro and relegation.
Oh, good God!
Relegation. If you talk about that, you're guaranteed to get a viral hit there, Derek.
Okay,
let's have a rant. Go.
I don't talk about it because it would take a minor miracle for something like that to change. So we all know that this is all about the money, and it would have to be a total transformation of the voting blocks that currently vote at a, and it's just not, they're all in each other's pockets. Now, I do agree that the players' block has grown, but I don't think it's big enough to, and I don't think, and they're handpicked for the most, well, they're not handpicked. That's not exactly accurate. But anyhow, it would take a minor miracle for that to change. Something would have to drastically change for us to get to that. But Eric says, we turned ProRel into a crazy idea that wasn't inclusive enough, merit-based. So we created a new system, a system which promotes not being the best, but being competitive enough to be included, playoffs. Then we wonder why we get knocked out of the first round of the World Cups. Probably some correlation there, just based on pressure and expectations and all that. I mean, he's got a point. But, boy, hell, what is that?
I'm not going to have you read this because obviously you wouldn't be able to see this.
No, I can't see it, nor can anybody else.
Oh, my God, what am I looking at here? This was USSF back in during the World Cup of '94 to the members of the National Council. And it goes, this is actually, let me rephrase this. This was actually back in 98 or 88. Let me rephrase this. 88, July 30th of 88.
Right.
This is what they they sent out to the National Council as, I guess, they were preparing to get preparing for the 94 World Cup. But the big three things that they want to work on. Number one was to develop a highly competitive national team in the near future.
Yep.
Fair enough. I think they feel like
94 was all right.
Competitive, but competitive at least.
94 was all right.
Yeah. Number two, a multi-layered development system to enable the national team to be competitive through the 90s. And number three, the development of a sophisticated professional league structure encompassing 3 divisions in a promotion and relegation system.
That's correct. Yep. That was the original framework.
Still waiting on that, I guess. And again, obviously the big problem to that is all the handful of investors that came into MLS was like, why would I spend all my money and invest all my time in this just to get relegated? So they changed some things up at that point.
Yes, that was...
MLS started, they had like 8 teams or something like that.
That was part of the deal with all the people with all the money. All right, we're not going to ever kick you out. There you go. That's how they got the deal.
You know what? They could still accomplish this. All MLS has to do is create 3 different divisions and artificially create promotion relegation, which they're kind of trying to do.
Well, that's what they're hinting.
MLS Next Pro.
As they're talking people into investing into an MLS Next Pro, they're saying that there's a future for those teams in MLS. I can't remember the guy's name over there in the Northeast that we featured on the show.
Kraft. Oh, Northeast is Kraft.
No.
We're talking about Kraft?
No, we're talking about the guy who just bought that MLS Next Pro team.
Oh.
And his reasoning.
Over in Vermont or whatever, or Connecticut.
Yes.
Connecticut.
And his reasoning for doing it is they were telling him he's got a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. That's what they were telling him. Yes.
Yeah. We don't have this pulled up, but Derek, did you want to talk about this? Because I didn't get to see any of his takes this week because I was up in Michigan enjoying a vacation.
So Max was basically saying, I'll summarize, the reason U.S. soccer didn't do very well is because, unlike Canada, we didn't have enough MLS players. Yeah.
I
did have to call him out on that. And, as usual, it's always friendly. I just disagree with him right on his page or right on his posts. And he replied. He often replies. But a lot of people called him out for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's assessment makes any sense at all. And so I asked him, well, name a bunch of players that would have helped. And he named Stefan. Okay.
We had Johnson. What are you talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
MLS like for like. Let's get rid of Johnson and take Stefan. And I personally, I think that might have been an upgrade, although we didn't get to that point of using our third goalkeeper.
That's not enough names. If you're going to make a statement that's big and bold, if you're Max, you need to have more than one or two names that would have made difference. And I think he also mentioned Zimmerman and Roldan as other options. Yeah.
I was still thinking about Zimmerman. I was like thinking about the center backs. I'm like, you could have removed. CCV was playing like crap. You could have removed McKenzie and brought Zimmerman, I guess. But then all of a sudden you said Roldan, and all of a sudden in my head like, wait, what?
Yeah. So
what?
Everyone has to keep in mind that Max Bretos is paid by MLS. He's gonna say MLS-y things. And maybe he should just be more open about the fact that, hey, I work for MLS, so of course I'm going to say MLS things, just like Matt Doyle does. And I guess we can get by that. It's just hard to read. It's hard to read.
It's one of those things where, like, I don't want to say necessarily. I'm not gonna come out and say that his opinions are altered by the fact that he does work with MLS.
I think they are.
I would just say, if you're going to come out and say there needs to be more MLS players, come up with a better list. You could have said something like, Mihailovic or Luna. There's some creative options. They're getting assists in the bucket loads at MLS right now. Why not give them a look?
He could have said
different than that.
He could have said that. Look how poorly Richards played in Copa. Why not start Robinson, Miles?
Yeah, there you go.
I think that maybe he did say that to someone else and I didn't see it. And I would have been, all right, that's fine. But he did make the team. He was already on the team. And so it's not like he didn't make it. Maybe he just didn't perform in training or, leading up to the big games. Or maybe Gregg simply doesn't trust him in those kind of big moments. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
John Kabelich has a super chat. I was 1 month old when Pro Rel was first mentioned. Well, you're a youngster then, John. Enjoy
June
it.
of 88, apparently, yeah.
Enjoy it. It goes by fast. I was in high school in 88, for Christ's sake.
Would have been at 88, I would have been 5 at that point.
Jesus. I graduated in 89 from high school, so there you go.
Oh, 2002.
Thank you, John. We do appreciate it.
God, me saying like, I was 5 when you said you were in high school, that already made the age gap between us so apparent.
Yeah.
But then you said they graduated in 89, and I said I graduated in 2002. That solidified it and made it easy for all to see.
Well, I'm going to be shaving.
There's an age difference here.
I'm going to having to shave this beard off here soon because I have some important meetings I need to go to. So we'll see how that works out. Jeff Carey,
you don't want to appeal to their inner child sense of Santa Claus?
Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh.
I mean, if I can fake people out into thinking I'm 5 years younger, I'll do it.
Derek, you got to go in with an actual Santa Claus outfit and then tell the interviewee to come sit on your lap.
These meetings are, anyhow, I won't get into them. Jeff Carey for $4.99. USA Soccer should remember the lesson of Bud Light when making the Beta Berhalter decision. Well, Jeff, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Soccer doesn't have $6 billion to lose on that,
and
whatever it was.
Isn't Bud still a sponsor of the team? Aren't they one of them? Or is that Michelob? That's Michelob, right? Jeff?
Michelob definitely, but I'm sure Bud still a sponsor, aren't they?
I thought they were, but I could be wrong. Jeff, thank you, Spicy Jeff. I remember you from Pete's show. Matthew Dominguez for $5. Assuming Neil left off because Galaxy are tied in first and league goals, but what's with the Luna snub? Did they think Kramashi is better or a Messi thing? Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I was going to say we were going to get into. We're definitely getting into this later, so we can go ahead and talk about it briefly here. Honestly, I think when it comes to Neil, he's obviously he's been injured for a huge chunk of change leading into these past upcoming windows. You wasted 2 open CB spots on an overage player in Miles Robinson and Zimmerman. You got Dietz coming in. Dietz is playing at a higher level, and you've talked about multiple times how he's garnering interest from a number of Bundesliga teams.
Dietz probably will not be playing with Firth next season. More than likely, he will be sold. Now, Neil, yes, as far as I heard, he wasn't let go. I just don't want to let him go. And there are only 3 spots. And if you're going to fill 2 of them with your older players, that says what to Dietz? You probably ain't playing, buddy. Because the 2 guys we wasted, our older guy spots on, they're playing. You don't waste those spots.
Well, yeah,
those spots are meant for people who are going to play. Now, does that mean the same for Kramashi? Now, that pick was just weird. I'm sorry.
Well, as somebody mentioned with Kramashi, it's like every time he gets brought up because he plays with Messi at Inter Milan or Inter Miami.
That's fine, but
I'm saying that it doesn't always. He's talented and he plays with Messi. I'm just like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, I don't care about the Messi connection at all.
He's got 3 goals and 1 assist. Luna's dwarfing that.
Luna's on a hot streak right now, too. Josh Weiner, as far as I understand, is still injured. Justin Che. Oh, he's what? Ado Den Haag.
All right, hang on. Let me get that pulled up here real quick.
So, what, the Olympic roster?
We'll just talk about some of the stuff with the Olympics now. Why not?
Okay.
Haji Wright was not released.
Nope. That is not a surprise. They released him obviously they had to release him for Copa. He barely played, but they're not. Most of these teams aren't risking one of their starters, and that is what he is for Coventry City. They are not going to let Haji Wright go play in the Olympics. It's just not going to happen. If you are going to play, if you're in Europe and you play on an important team, and your team's spending all that money on Haji Wright, which is what they're doing, you're not going to let him go.
Well, similar scenarios. Reynolds wasn't released because of I think Westerlo's looking to offload, but transfer him.
Apparently, I need to text Pete again because he already forgot. It's Westerlo, not Westerloo. You know what though? Jimmy's
show with Miola and Days, they all said it wrong too.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard.
No. Their big one was Eupen. They kept saying Eupen.
Eupen, it's Eupen. But there is a town named Waterloo where a very famous battle happened. Okay, but it has 2 O's on it. Westerlo has 1 O. Anyhow, it's a technicality, and we like to take, poke Pete a little occasionally.
Jokingly poke, which we're going to get into a little bit later, that there's sometimes pokes that aren't joking.
I swear to God, if Pete and I text anymore in the last 3 days, our eyes are going to fall out because, we're sharing all kinds of different information. We're trying to keep in touch with one another. It has been a crazy weekend, absolutely crazy. And so here it is, the Olympic lineup. Schulte, Slonina, can't complain.
That's what we expected.
Totally good 2 picks. Dietz, we already discussed. He probably won't be at first for very much longer. Nathan Harriel, he's been playing for us for a while now. Somebody likes him.
He's actually got his last 7 caps in the last 7 matches available.
Right.
So he's put on a good form. Plus, he's universal. He can play across the back line, apparently.
Yeah, but he's going to be playing right back because he's the only right back we have.
True.
Okay? That's
a great point. Yeah.
Because Tolkien and Wiley are more naturally on the left.
Yeah. Our good friend Brian Schroeder had talked about Dwan Jones should have been one of the overage players.
Yeah, that might have been smart, but maybe the refs didn't let Dwan Jones go, or maybe he just wasn't picked. Well, we won't know, right?
We'll never know.
Well, I'm sure Brian knows.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure he has some idea. Gianluca Busio, and of course, Tanner Tessman. Everyone could see that coming a mile away. I do like the addition of Jack McGlynn. The ones that, Jordy's having a good season. Mihailovic is having a fine season. But to I don't know, just leaving off Luna, something's not right. And of course, he was asked to be an alternate, and Luna said, "Hey, here's this to your alternate."
Yeah, I don't think it's Mihailovic that pushed Luna out, quite frankly, because Mihailovic is going to start over Kramashi. You have Busio, McGlynn, and Tessman that are going to probably anchor in what I would imagine would be more of a double pivot.
Maybe.
Or leave Kramashi and Mihailovic as your two more offensive-minded players. But then again, Luna could easily slot that.
Or if you're playing a 4-3-3, which is what Mitrovic is probably going to do, there's just no need to have a 10. And that's what Luna is. Luna brings you something nobody else can bring you. That kind of out-of-nowhere artistry, right?
Yep.
Artistry. By the way, there are almost 760-something people here. Well, there were. It's at 759 right now.
66 right now.
766, sorry, just popped up. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. That's total watches and views on both X and on YouTube. We do appreciate it, and thank you for coming out. If you want to make sure we don't miss your question, you know what to do with the super chat. But we're not going to beg for your money. And if you don't have the money, don't spend it. Well, we try to read as much as we can. It's not easy.
Currently on Twitter, there's 288 people watching, which means the bulk of us are on YouTube.
Well, that's good. I like, YouTube's great. And then for the forwards, we got Paxton Aronson, who would be your other pseudo false nine.
That was the big one I wanted to talk about today, because listening to Call It What You Want, they're just like, oh my god, it's mind blowing that we only took 1 9 in this roster. I'm like, do they not recall that Paxton has played the false 9 under Vargas and under Mitrovic this entire fucking time?
Yeah, exactly. So if Duncan, McGuire pulls a left testicle or something in the middle of the tournament, they're going to use Paxton Aronson up top as a false 9. It's not surprising. Listen, this is a tough tournament. You have such limitations on the roster. It's, I think that usually means, boy, you want to be more flexible and bring players who can play multiple positions. But, leaving out Neil, that was on, by the way, just want to reiterate that was on LA Galaxy. But there's some other guys. I think you brought up Esmir Bartarovic earlier.
Yeah, where's he at? I had to think for him here.
And
right here.
We've done everything we could to make Esmir happy.
He hasn't officially said it, despite the fact that they're talking about here. But the reports are reports. People are just saying that, the reports. But there's talk that he's going to make the one-time switch over to Bosnia after the Olympics.
That talk's been going on now for 2 weeks. So
whether it happens or not, but if there wasn't this talk, I think leaving Esmir off was a gross snub. Going back to this, I'm sorry, Yao, but I'm taking Esmir, and I know that he's significantly younger, but I'm sorry, I've absolutely loved what I've seen from that kid.
Yeah, or you could kind of put him in the midfield. But again, Esmir is more like of attacking midfielder type, right? Or I guess winger, whatever.
I'll take the right wing that we saw him at the Camp Cupcake. He was phenomenal there. Against a Bosnia D team, whatever.
Yeah, he was one of the few shining people at that Camp Cupcake. So, yeah, PSV said no as well to Tillman and Pepe.
And Pepe, yeah.
Ernie Stewart.
They were pissed.
Listen, I get it, but Ernie is about PSV. That's where he gets his paycheck, and he is not risking either of those two players for an injury. And if you would think if anyone would have like these feelings of, oh, I got to work with U.S. Soccer on the Olympics, it might be Ernie, but Ernie's cutthroat, man. He's cutthroat, and he's not doing anything to put his job at PSV at risk. And, you would have thought the same thing about Carlos Bocanegra, but when he was ruling the roost, as he does at Atlanta United, he doesn't like to let players go either for Gold Cup, for Schlympics.
Well, and I liked Patrick Noonan's thing with Cincy. He's got like 2 center backs out with injuries, but he said that he was never going to prevent Miles Robinson from attending both Copa and the Olympics, because those are opportunities that any player dreams of doing.
Real patriot, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I guess.
Well, I mean, he has to be in the top like 70% of MLS teams in order to make the playoffs. So who cares if you lose a game or two here?
I mean, his owner probably doesn't like that, and I'm sure his owner could have overruled him if he wanted to and said, "Hey, Pat, I'm making a phone call to you here, just so you realize, no, you're not going to let them go to the Olympics, Schlympics." So, but everybody has their limit, everybody has their priorities, and obviously, Ernie's is PSV, not the Olympic Schlympic team.
Charlie Davies also mentioned how Dortmund rejected Gio's departure as well, because Gio apparently was interested in going to the Olympics, and Dortmund said no.
Yeah, that was a given.
Yeah,
and it's a player who's had injuries not even that long ago, so you're not risking hopefully an asset you can get back up to the total amount he was worth before, which probably will never happen. I think we mentioned at one point he was worth 38 mil. 40 mil, and now it's down to 13.
I don't think it's 13. I think it's 18.
18.
Last I looked.
I should ask Veith about that when I ran into him on X. But because I've always wanted to ask him, Manuel, hey, that is the craziest drop I've ever seen. Has there ever been a player who has dropped so precipitously, so quickly in market value than Gio Reyna? Because that is crazy.
Well, I mean, you have 2 years of injuries. Would make sense that a highly touted, expensive player is going to get hit.
That is a massive drop.
Yeah.
Massive.
Well, and it'd be one thing if he came back from injury and then started playing again for his team. But Terzic said, no, I like you as a super sub at best.
Okay, well, new coach. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons the board didn't want to bring back Terzic, so says some German papers. You can take that for as far as you can throw it, probably. I mean, they're not as bad as English papers, but they're not great. The board was pissed at Terzic for devaluing a lot of their young players that they had brought in, because Dortmund wanted to bring in youngsters, develop them, play them, sell them. That's what they like to do. And what they saw was a precipitous drop in number of the younger players on that team last year.
Yeah, we saw quite a big increase in the average age per lineup.
Yeah. Daniel asked, no Cole Campbell. No. Listen.
Too late in the cycle, I think, for him to really be included.
Too late in the cycle. Cole has never even played yet for the Dortmund 2 team. And, he was getting to the max out of the age in the youth squad. Usually, if you're, 19, 18, and you're
19, yeah.
You should already be, if you're like a super talent, you should already be playing for the 2 team.
And on top of that, who he's going up against? Taylor Booth has several years, although albeit he's been injured for a lot of them.
Yes.
of professional experience. Paxton Aaronson's coming off of a great loan stint in Holland. And Griffin Yao is he had a breakout season. Kevin Paredes is Kevin Paredes. He had a hell of a season as far as minutes earned in Bundesliga. Not necessarily stellar performances per se.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster.
But he certainly got his minutes worth in Bundesliga. So I mean, as far as Cole trying to break this, it would have been tough. It would have been a tough call to make. And I think there are other people who were more integrated within the U23 windows that probably would have been called up before him.
Let's see if ESPN Plus plays more of the Utrecht games next season, so we can actually watch them. Because last season, I think I watched 3 Taylor Booth games.
Are the Dutch? Is the Dutch league also like compressed to certain teams?
Yeah,
or certain number of games.
I don't think they carry every game. No.
I guess, quite frankly, outside of the top handful of teams,
yes,
we've never really had to follow another American except for Paxton in that sense.
I think they played every PSV game, for instance.
Oh, guaranteed. I remember watching majority of those. Yeah,
right. So hopefully they boost up the Utrecht thing because I want to watch Aronson and Booth play together. Provided.
Oh, that's
Booth
right. I forgot Aronson went there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loan,
it's going to be fun to see if they play Paxton as deep at Utrecht as they did with what's their faces that just got.
It starts with the V, right?
Vitesse. No.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah. It's another American.
Somebody will probably have it in the chat.
Yeah, they were awful.
I believe it was Vitesse, though. I think it was Vitesse. Yeah.
Anyhow, okay.
IG Sports agrees.
Thank you, Kaju. I am old, and sometimes I forget names. It just happens.
So it's funny. The BNR Football posted this Olympic roster, just like what we saw a second ago.
Yep.
And FICO, I'm guessing he's a
Fico.
Chelsea fan apparently. Or Fico. He goes, like this tweet if you don't know any of them.
What?
He had almost 11,000 views, and guess what? All 10 comments, were calling him casual because there are 2 players on this team that are part of Chelsea.
Yeah, I don't know how
you got Slonina and you got Wiley.
You got to be a casual not to know who some of these players are. Anyhow, folks, just heads up. Yes, we are getting to a Berhalter thing, and U.S. soccer.
Oh, one last thing on the Olympics here.
Okay. Alexi says men's Olympic soccer U23s plus 3 overage players is about development. I see the job of the team to produce prospects for the full U.S. men's national team. The 1992 U.S. Olympic team produced 7 players who made the 94 World Cup. If the summer's team produces 1 new player for 2026, I'll be amazed. Yeah, because one of the ones that I think is going to develop into a future U.S. men's national team player is Max Dietz, as long as his trajectory continues in the right direction.
I was thinking about bringing up Dietz because our center back depth is not really firing. But I went with the easy one. Our goalkeeper situation is in shambles.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I would like moving forward this upcoming September window with New Zealand and Panama. I'm saying bring Gaga, bring Schulte, bring somebody else besides Horvath and Turner. We don't need to see what they can do against these teams. Let's start seeing what we potentially have in these younger goalkeepers.
Or God help us, that's probably not going to happen if Gregg is still the coach, which I don't think that's going to happen based on all the rumblings. But hey, we'll get to what happened today here in a sec.
Or did you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a little bit to share.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so outside of all the players we talked about, the 18, outside of Dietz, who do you think stands a chance of cracking that 26? If anybody.
For the 2026 World Cup?
Yeah.
Maybe Schulte, maybe Slonina.
That's outside of the goalkeepers and outside of Dietz. Because you brought him up, I brought these two up.
Really depends on what Wiley and how if he skyrockets in Europe, but I don't see that happening. I don't. Aronson maybe, but I wouldn't bet my house on it.
We could see some of the. I forget who I was getting into this conversation with. But they talked about I don't see anybody in this 18 out starting over, say, Pulisic, Weston, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it was Sean on Twitter. He goes, and that indicates that we have a lack of depth. And I'm like, I agree we have a lack of depth. But just competing with our stars doesn't mean that we have a lack of depth. That means we just have a bunch of bench players. Yes, we have a lack of depth.
I mean, if the big boy pant team keeps playing like total garbage, yeah, guys like Paredes are going to get another shot for sure.
Oh, for certain. And I think we should look at them, give them opportunities. I mean, I know with a new coach coming in, most likely at least, obviously he's going to need to incorporate himself onto the players, not on physical aspects, but on a figurative aspect.
Yeah.
So he's going to need to include them into their whole his whole. Well, there won't be a revamp of the system, and I think that's probably going to prevent certain coaches from joining up. But still, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
All right, let's get out of this Olympic talk. Let me close out a couple tabs just so I know we don't rehash over a couple things.
Just to a summary, yeah. The leaving out Luna, crazy. That's just crazy. And I don't blame him for telling Mitrovic to go jump off a cliff, basically, on the alternate thing.
Oh, but but everybody, all the pundit. I mean, did you listen to Herc and Seb and their show about? It was Herc. I think it was Herc, Seb. I think it was
Casey Keller.
Casey Keller, and somebody else. I forgot who the other person was. And every single one of them is like, "Oh, he's being selfish." Blah blah blah. You need to take every single advantage you get when you're talking about possibly cracking the men's national team and the Olympics is to represent your country and all this stuff. I'm like, I would feel insulted too, because I mean, Vargas played you nonstop just to get to this point.
Yeah,
and then you're brought in all this outside of the last handful of windows, and all of a sudden you lose your spot. The players who arguably are not performing as well in the same league, or the same league that you're playing in.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'd be pissed too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's just the kind of player that apparently coaches don't understand how to use, or else he would be there. Or Mitrovic isn't planning on playing a 10, even though Luna can play out wide too. Obviously, he does it for his club team, but maybe they just didn't value him. A lot of times you just don't bring guys on that you just don't see any value in. And you know what? If the player hears that, oh, these guys don't value me, well then come.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to butcher his name again because I know that's for him, but the coach at Uruguay. Bielsa?
Yes.
Oh, did I say it right?
Yeah, you did. Good job.
Look at me.
You're learning to speak Spanish.
Paraphrasing here, but basically saying with teams nowadays being so methodical, so data oriented.
I saw that. Yeah,
you no longer have the creativity, and you're losing out on players. Like you're losing out. U.S. is going to lose out on a player like Diego. We're losing out on a player kind of like Gio, for that matter, by playing him so fucking far back.
Yeah,
I mean, these are players who need to be in the middle of the pitch, higher up to create. We're branching away from that shit.
It's just like Gregg's allergic to a 4-2-3-1. Although when he came back, he tried it, But yeah, when the shit hit the fan and Copa started, it was right back to the standard sort of 4-3-3 that he likes to do, with Reyna dropping back to receive the ball quite often, quite deep. So, okay. This perfectly encapsulates. This is you. You should read this.
Sure. This perfectly encapsulates. Jesus. The issue we had for the last couple of years is fans being called toxic. This by no means reference to the discussion being had or to Brett Thompson, who Winaldo was referring to. And just to give a little backstory there, Brett Thompson basically called out Winaldo's comment of telling her to go to Mexico. Go to Mexico. You know,
that's all so personal.
It is all personal, and that's basically what it referred to. He goes, "Hey, you know, maybe you should do some research. There's a history here." But this is the problem. I said we had years of calling out players and coaches, spent countless hours explaining it, only to have new people ask the same questions. Eventually, it would devolve into quick and seemingly harsh retorts. Then people who may not have been around for the earlier questions started claiming that the fan base of U.S. men's national team Twitter was toxic because they were claiming player X or coach Y sucks without backing it up.
Yeah, and after a while that comes off as toxic. It's just that a lot of us have been having this discussion for a number of years now, and it gets so repetitive saying the same thing that instead of explaining to you the whole Brooks saga again, I'm just going to say, hey, had a falling out.
Yeah.
I mean, because easier, and that's just an example of being brief. But in some cases, people say, well, what about this player? And you're like, yeah, I don't think that player's that good. Instead of getting into the reasons why you don't think it's good, or the reasons you don't think Gregg's been good, because you've already said it 50,000 times. And at some point you're like, just Gregg sucks. He's not right for the team. And, you know, that's my summary. If you don't like it, I'm not explaining it for a paragraph again.
That's the gist of it. And kind of going off on a tangent here, I had mentioned it to you before the show that Colin decided to unblock me just to respond to this and then block me again.
What an ass.
By simply calling me a liar and saying that for years me and Derek have been backing up Tact and Pete when they were claiming that, you know, Paul Arriola was less than barely a professional soccer player. And, you know, he goes on to talk about cyberbullying and bullshit like that. And to respond to him, saying, hey, so you're pissed off that a person who has been for years explaining why a player is not capable at the national team level, he devolves into a point where he's just saying, yeah, he sucks.
Rolled on sucks.
You're calling him cyberbully for it? Mm-hmm. You just proved my point there, Colin.
Yeah.
That's all it was. And Colin was there from the get-go. He knows exactly why Pete and Tact may not necessarily like Paul Arriola or Leggett or anything like that. They know the reason. He knows the reason, but he wants to devolve in that sense. But this is, like I said, a tangent.
It just... Pete and I talk about this sometimes. We're like, because we have disagreements, right?
Sure.
But it's not personal. It's just like my disagreements with Max Bretos. It's not personal. I don't hate Max. In fact, I quite like Max. In person, he's a very nice guy.
He's a nice guy. Yeah.
But he's just wrong a lot. And I'm just not going to let him get away with it. That's all.
And again, when we say stuff like, oh, he's wrong a lot, obviously we're talking about our own opinions. But the problem is that our opinions are right. So that makes him wrong.
Right. And it's over a long period of time he's had some of these opinions that we've disagreed with. It's not like it happens every day.
Oh. Jackie, you take that back.
Actually,
Berg is not Canada's Arriola. That kid balls for Canada, man.
If Schaffelberg is still playing in MLS in the next couple seasons, I will be shocked. I really will.
Hey, Colin's in the chat. Unblock me, you pussy. We can have a back and forth. I'm perfectly fine with that. But man, don't block me and respond to me because I can't respond to you. I've got to quote tweet you every time.
Boy, is that just, you know, that is so funny. All right, anyhow, where were we?
So this was leading us all into the Jake topic.
Oh, and God.
Some of you might not know, and some of you might not know who Jake is. Do you want to give a little bit of a background, Derek?
Yeah, Jake Landau hosts the show. It's called Soccer.
Yeah.
And I guess he renamed it just Jake Landau now because it's all going to be about him. We've had him on early on. We had him on our show. I've been on his show. Thought everything was hunky-dory. Frankly, I didn't know anything was wrong between us, even though I realized there were things not going right between
Pete
Tact mostly. And
sorry. I meant to say Tact. You're right. Yeah, it was Tact more so than anything.
All right. Yeah, they had some conflict, and I'm not rehashing it. But you know, I had always wondered when he talked about Tact and Pete in that earlier rant that he did, and he went on to say, and his and his buddies, you always knew the word.
The YouTube jabronis?
There you go.
Yeah.
And his YouTube jabronis.
I joked around. I mean, I kind of wanted it to be us. Because I personally love that. That's a great phrase. And I would love to have a t-shirt that has YouTube jabronis with us on it. I'm taking it back, guys.
Right.
But I didn't care. It didn't bother me if he was saying that about us.
Right.
At the time. But I mean, it's an underlier at that point. We found out differently now.
Yeah, apparently so. But yeah, thank you for those that sent me a copy of this. I appreciate it.
I'll get back to the top so we can see what this article is.
I was even considering not even bringing it up because, you know, why am I going to shine a light on this?
Yes.
But
we're going to shine a light on it, and then we're going to leave it forever.
Okay. But fake reporters are stopping usually important U.S. soccer discourse. Dude, I was a reporter for a long time. So let me ask you this. Tom Bogert just recently lost his job at The Athletic. Okay. He just got rehired today by a different company.
I didn't know he got let go. I thought he just got a new gig.
But let me ask you this. If he couldn't find a new job or didn't have a new job, yet he was still doing his YouTube show, would that make him no longer a reporter? And I don't know about whether or not you need to be a reporter to report things anyhow. That's the weirdest thing about this.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a second because I got the quote pulled up for that.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let you.
So yeah, Jake's on Substack. I know he's got 7 likes and 1 comment. The 1 comment's not a very positive comment. It's been out for a bit, but
a bit. So I went through the article, and I kind of gave it a go through. I'm hoping I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Maybe he's, I'm going to look for that silver lining. Of course you are.
I've never had an issue with Jake, and I mean, the closest thing that we've had as a conflict with Jake was telling him when he started calling out Tact in a video. We said, Jake, bro, this isn't the way.
Yeah, you can disagree with Tact because we do it all the time.
Yeah,
but that's not the way to do it.
So I went through after reading it the first time through and sitting there going like, this is kind of bullshit, man. I mean, you got it worse than I did, and Pete obviously got it even worse. I wasn't even included in this whole thing, but I'm kind of included because obviously it's our show.
Yeah.
So I went through the second time and started picking out certain words and phrases. So like this is throughout the entire article. He talks about detractors of the U.S. soccer. I've heard this phrase "detractors" used across the board when doing the culture war aspect. It's every fucking where. That's never a good look, never a good sign when you start using that phrase. Phrases like that should have kept the hounds docile for a few days. That's you guys right there.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point is to not be docile. I don't know how going into hiding at U.S. Soccer is going to stop the dogs from barking, honestly. And, if you look at the long list of the people we've had on this show, and you look at that list and you call us U.S. Soccer detractors, then I think that's just a false statement.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, I mean, even the people who, the people who've been hashtag Berhalter out from the get-go. You can't sit there and call them a detractor. They don't want Berhalter leading the U.S. men's national team. But that's not to say that what they're doing is anti-U.S. soccer. They're not hoping for U.S. I mean, there have been some people that say, like, I hope we flame out of the Copa, et cetera, but they're not hoping for U.S. soccer to fail as a whole.
No. Nobody wants U.S. soccer to fail. I mean, not the team. I don't want the team to fail. No, I certainly do not. And I certainly wish that the way they were set up was better. But if you could pull up all the people we've had on our show.
Yeah, you got that right here. Want to pull up one thing real quick for this. He goes, and the last thing was about us. He says, if what I heard was true.
Oh, I was going to get back to that.
Oh, you want to get back to that? Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm not leaving this topic behind.
Can't read that at all. I'm going to have to read it for you, I guess. We had Grant Wall on our show. We had Pete from 11 Yanks, tactical manager, Keith Costigan, Joe Max Moore, Bobby McMahon, Steve Cohen, Jimmy Conrad, Stephen Goff, John O'Brien, Jeff Agus, Tony Senna, Brian Shredder, Chris Henderson, Peter Wilt, Tony Miola, Simon Allen, Meg Swanick, Brett Oppenheim, Max Bredos, Yanks Report, and many more.
I mean, yeah, more recently, Eric Winaldo and Alexi Lawless. We have people on
Bill Archer
that we totally disagree with. And we care about this sport that much that we will bring people on we disagree with and have a conversation with them. And it's totally cool. So we're not just detractors. We're not just yelling at the clouds.
Which is one of the things he talks about. Yeah, we're screaming into the abyss or whatever it was.
And by the way, I'm not getting into the fact, because since I've apparently never been a journalist before, which is, I think, hilarious, because that's why I got into the whole big soccer gig in the first place.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why I was there. Unless you don't think Bill Archer's a journalist, or you think Dan Loney's not a journalist, because he is. And we talked with reporters like Stephen Goff, who've been doing this for a long time, and we talked to people who were just getting started, like Meg Swanick. So people talk to us. It's just how it goes. And we talk to them. And sometimes there are things amongst that group that they don't want to go public with. Except if you're Eric Winaldo, he will go public with anything.
I'm sorry to say the whole concept of, we had this huge, there's a huge argument on Twitter with another person as well. But again, the people who are, well, if you can't share your sources, then you're not credible. Bitch, I mean, the thing is, if it's a happy-go-lucky quote, I think Gregg Berhalter is doing a great job. Guess what? Pulisic's name is going to be brought up into that. But you know what? If it's like, hey, I think Gregg's a horrible manager, and I think he's doing awful things to the team. Guess what? That player or person within U.S. Soccer doesn't want their name associated to that, because they're going to either lose their gig or lose their job.
And think of all the players that Tack knows personally. It's a long list, people, behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the stories he's never told, because there's plenty of them. And he can't, and he won't, because he knows if he says it will probably reveal the person who told him who that person is. So yes, you've got to protect your sources. You're just not going to out everybody.
Yeah.
We're there. I mean, I've told the story before when I wrote the article after doing an interview with Sasha Kleshton's dad. This is going back, 13 years ago or whatever it was. And I published the article, and it was a total slam on Preki and how he treated Sasha while he played for Preki. And at the time, Preki was a U.S. men's national team assistant coach. I published the article. It was starting to pick up a lot of traction on Big Soccer. I got a call from Sasha Kleshton's dad, and he said, you got to pull that down or my son will never play for U.S. Soccer again.
Mm-hmm.
And I did pull it down. Technically, anyone can be a journalist. There's no certification, but apparently Jake thinks you need a degree in journalism to cover soccer.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with Colin. That I wanted to bring it up just to indicate, despite the fact we had a little tiny spat there. I still agree with what stuff that Colin says.
I will never figure out Colin. Like, he's nice, then he's not, then he's nice, then he's not. It's like, yeah. Anyhow.
In his defense, though, he's looking at us saying the same thing, though. So
I think we're generally very nice, or we were, until it hit a tipping point. All right, for almost 1,000 of you in here, just short of 1,000. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your grandma, your stepsister. We do appreciate you joining the discussion. While the entertainment value of the YouTube show Straight Red Card, okay, we're getting a kind of like a side nice, here's a nice thing, I'm saying they're really entertaining, is through the roof. The journalistic integrity should be considered as the level below the basement. Name one thing. That's so funny. I effed up semantically this weekend. And what did I do? Right after I got a text telling me I effed up, I immediately retracted it on the right off my profile page.
Yep.
So that's the first mistake we have made on this show, outside of saying that Reyna could have a good time at Nottingham Forest. Well, I don't think that's exactly what we said, but we said it's possible. Let's see what he learns while he's there. We were trying to be optimistic. And I ate crow for that. Okay? Live on air. Not real crow. It was chicken wings. And then...
They're crow wings there. Come on, man. Play into it.
If you're wrong, you're wrong. And you just have to admit it. But if he could have named like one or two things I have ever said that are like, am I supposed to tell you who told me about John Brooks thing and the halftime incident? Like, no, I'm not going to tell you that. Why would I do that? That person will be, okay, forever. So no, I'm not doing that. And yes, the Honduras incident at halftime was not pretty.
Yeah.
And we're not getting back into it again because we've talked about it so many times. We're blue in the face for 2 years now. Anyhow,
well, I mean, so this whole quote right here is a backhanded compliment.
Mm-hmm.
It's all it is, because it is saying, hey, you know, they're funny, but you know, don't take anything they say seriously. And so it takes our credibility into question. And yeah, I know Derek has been a journalist. He's published many a thing beforehand, before we even started the show back in 2010.
Yeah. A lot of defunct soccer websites that didn't survive. And that is on our page at YouTube. You can go to the more part and just see all the article, or all the people I used to work for and write for. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, it was 20 years ago, some of it. It's old. I get it. It's been a long time. Still. 13 years ago, I was with Big Soccer. That's not that long ago, really. And we had a show there where we interviewed all kinds of U.S. soccer people and did journalism. We asked John O'Brien all about his rise to stardom. And then the injuries and what made him finally call it quits. That's called journalism, people. I'm sorry,
Yep.
it is. It's an interview, but it's still journalism.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
again, as we've mentioned before, it's absolutely silly to assume that, given the number of people that we've interviewed, the number of people we've talked to in the industry outside of the interviews, that we wouldn't have some form of insiders, some people who give us tidbits here and there.
Yeah.
And even if we don't, God forbid that we look at all the context clues throughout the years that have happened and come to our own conclusion that actually works out. 90%, I'm going to say, most of what we say is accurate, I think, personally. I think there have been, like we talked about, there are very few things that we've gotten wrong. And again, we'll correct it. Now, we could be wrong on an opinion.
Opinions you can get wrong.
Yeah.
They're like assholes.
We can get wrong on a Gregg Berhalter lineup.
Right.
But I think most of the talking points, as far as hot breaking news or anything like that, I think we've been pretty fucking spot on.
God, we've been cautious too. Like, I think I had texted, or was that DM, you and Pete and Tapped, and I was like, some of these people in my DMs popping up here are anonymous, and I can't use them because I had to vet them. I'd be like, okay, so this is what you're telling me. I know you can't tell me who you are, and that's fine, but can you tell me give me some context about how you would possibly know that? And I didn't use it. Use it. It's weird what shows up in your DMs from weird addresses with no real information about who the person is. And the point being, it's not like I just use everybody willy-nilly. I mean, if I did that, I'd be wrong a lot more. I'd be wrong a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the rumors, which I have no way of confirming whatsoever, but I'll throw it out there, an example of one I wouldn't report on and have no proof that it is true in my DM box, was that U.S. Soccer and had disconnected Gregg's emails address with FIFA. I'm like, okay, how do you know this? And I mean, can you give me something so I know you're not just making this up? And whether I believe them or not is not really the point, but I can't put crap out. And what if I posted that on X and it was total horseshit? I couldn't do it. I couldn't live with myself. You know how much agony I felt and how bad I felt when I had to make that apology this weekend? I felt totally horrible because I had misrepresented what happened. And I get it. Some people are like, what's the difference between being consulted and having a vote? Well, there is a difference. A vote would mean that the players stood up, raised their hand, or the player leadership committee would have raised their hand and said, we want John Brooks out. That is not what happened. And I got it wrong, but it's something I learned about 2 years ago. My memory sucked. So the person that, helped me arrive at that moment, let me know I got it wrong and that I had effed up and needed to clear it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. All right. It's never fun to apologize about anything. And it's the first apology I've had to make since I made the joke that we were going to get I was going to have sex with a sex doll live on air if the U.S. got to the semis of the World Cup or whatever that was.
It was beating England.
Beating England, that's right.
Which we considered a draw beating England. So, and technically, there was a good 5-minute video of you doing such. Actually, you were the one who got penetrated by it.
That's right. It was a cartoon we made. All right. So, silent on the news are reputable reporters like Brian Tannenwald, Tom Bogert, Doug McIntyre. How has Doug been quiet? And Paul Tenario. However, there were a few disreputable sources screaming from the rooftops about the need to immediately fire someone from a job because the air in their head got filled with disreputable noise. I don't think so. If you can't be talking about me because I have not been on X screaming from the rooftops. I have not put out a post every day saying day 6 or day 7. I totally support people who want to do that. I think it's a great idea, but I just haven't had time to be on there. I mean, the weekends are my best time to be on there. Otherwise, I try to squeeze it in after our show's over on Mondays. And I try to squeeze it in like a couple times more a week. I am not like an ex dude. I'm learning when it's all how it works, and
Dude, I've loved Chris Gary's Twitter recently. He's been like adding he'll like every now and then he'll add a sponsor like Truly. Let's go with Truly. This is add Truly. I went to my liquor store and I decided to get insert random competitor seltzer instead. But while I was waiting in line, some girls were behind me who had Truly, and I told them about how you're supporting the continued hiring of Gregg Berhalter, and they were disgusted. So then I ended up buying them something else.
Well, yeah.
I've absolutely loved his Twitter feed recently. It's been hysterical.
And then Casey Keller came out with that quote like, hey, man, I wouldn't worry about bothering the sponsors because we need their money. I get it, man. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, that's why people are doing it, because if the sponsors get affected, they call up the board members who in the end are going to make this, or probably did today, make that final decision. I can tell you this, they shut up shop today. There was nothing leaking today. Absolutely zippo zero. They have shut up shop there. And that's easy to do. You get all the people who are going to be voting in one room, you lock the door, you have your meeting, and then, someone says, listen, we know everybody in here. So if anything leaks out, we're going to find out who you are. I don't know if that's how the discussion would go, but it probably something like that you would probably think, because, you don't want a leaker in this situation. And it's easier to shut down when the whole office isn't going nuts, right? And whispering and talking to each other about what's going on. Oh my God, I think Gregg's coming in the office on Monday. And, you know, and people are spreading rumors amongst staff. But this is a lockdown meeting with just the decision makers. And I'm guessing they have locked it down pretty solidly because nobody got anything today. Nobody even got a nibble. No nibbles. Not even Eric Winalda didn't even come up with a theory today.
Yeah.
About it. So there you go. Oh, except for shut up and let them have some peace, like make a decision, which I'm like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. So what gets me about this specific quote is it's a fallacy.
It is.
It's an argument from authority.
Yep.
All of a sudden you have these reputable reporters from these established publishers, blah, blah, blah. Just because they're not talking about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. You're not providing evidence to make your case. You're basically just saying, well, this person played soccer at this level, so clearly they know more about the sport than you do.
Or this person's been a journalist and you aren't, so you are in disrepute immediately, which is the total fallacy.
Yeah.
A total joke. Anybody can be, somebody said it earlier, anybody can be a journalist. It's not that hard. Actually, it's almost easier to be an outsider, because if you're an insider, like poor Brian, Tom, and Doug, and Paul, you got to make sure to keep your access. You keep things on.
Yeah, tote that line, man.
You do have to tote the line. I'm sorry. And anybody that thinks you don't, I have a couple people you could call. All right.
All right. Untouchable says, I bet Jake likes Disney Star Wars.
I don't know what Jake likes. You know, I know he's on his own now. I know he worked for Men in Blazers for a while, and at least he claimed that he helped build their whole, you know, YouTube, whatever. I'm sure he helped. But, I mean, let's be fair, Jake. They already had a huge name, so that was a step already, a bonus point. Not to say you didn't work hard. I know it was exhausting and all that, but to come after us this way, I think is a little disingenuous, and I don't quite get it. I can't lie. I have a YouTube channel. I talk about U.S. soccer as a hobby. I am not a trustworthy source of inside information. I mean,
it sounds like a you problem.
It's not like we're breaking news every day here. So, I mean, we just do it when we know it's probably 90 to 99% correct. Otherwise, as I gave the example earlier, I didn't put that info out there. It could be absolutely correct, but I have no way of proving it. So I'm not putting it out. I have very few reputable sources and contacts in the grand scheme of things. Well, you don't have our history either. You would have interviewed all the people we've interviewed. You don't know all the people we've known. So I get it. It's probably hard. Nobody cares about me. Nobody cares about you. I'm sure your wife cares. If you are not,
I mean, the last two support on YouTube, we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, man, you kind of let us down with this cheap shot. If you are not a reputable reporter or cannot share your sources, you don't. Reporters don't share their sources. How many times do we get from an unnamed source? From a source close to the action. We get it all the time. Yeah. We're not going to give you their source.
Someone close to Nuno said that he prefers people with EPL experience.
Right.
There you go. That was legitimately provided to all of the Nottingham Forest talking points, all their podcasts and stuff.
I used to be a reputable reporter. Does that count for anything? Or cannot share your sources to earn blah, blah, blah. Your opinion matters, but your breaking news is null and void.
But wow. But I mean, that's the argument there, is that you're not, just because you're not a quote unquote reputable reporter doesn't make your statements null and void. That's the argument right there. Because it's not addressing the argument at all.
No,
it's just saying
not.
Oh, you don't write for insert paper here? Well, fuck off. Go be your funny clowns off in the corner in your little YouTube channel.
Remember when Brian Strauss wrote that article before the Costa Rica snow game?
I wanted to bring this up, but I couldn't think of all the details. Yes, go for it. Please do.
But, in order, if you're a player on that Klinsmann team, to share that with Brian, you need to know 100% your name ain't coming out in that article, right? About Klinsmann and his leadership style. Because you'll never play for him again. So you need to have that non-fear of anonymity. And I'm not saying that any of the guys listed earlier are people who are going to leak your name, but maybe you're a little worried about that as a leaker at US Soccer, that maybe, can I trust this guy? Because he seems really friendly with US Soccer. Am I going to get in trouble? Is he going to tell them? Or, do I trust Pete, who I've been watching his show for 3 years and I love his show, and I could just send him an anonymous DM and tell him, basically who generally who I am, not my name, but provide information that he thinks it's called, there's no such thing as the Whistleblower Act right now in journalism. Nobody wants to lose their job because of something that they think the public should know, but a certain entity doesn't want you to know. So
I imagine there's got to be some form of fallout between the reporter and the publisher if you reveal anonymous sources. Like, there's got to be some shtick to that, right?
Right.
If your publication constantly reveals anonymous sources, then an anonymous source is not going to come to you anymore.
No. And listen, no one's saying you have to believe me. I said this on X2. You don't have to believe anything I say. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't. You can say, I don't believe you. And I don't think that we're going to know anything by Wednesday. I think you're full of shit, and I don't know how you know that. Well, then it comes out a little while later. Yeah, it's going to be announced midweek. It's like, did I just make that up out of thin air? No, I didn't. There were, anyhow.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I don't want to get any more into the weeds here because
this is the last one I got here.
Okay. Are we putting real pressure on the Federation to make effective changes? No. We are fighting about a fake report. I don't know what even fake report he's talking about. I really don't.
Eric, is what you and Pete were talking about.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, if it's true what I heard from my sources, and if my sources said this, that's a fake report.
I can't even remember what we talked about. That was that revealing at the time. Honestly,
stuff like Crocker was at the Euros and not at. And
that was just repeating. That was just repeating what Winalda said. That was public. And I said that on the show. I'm pretty sure all that's public. That Winalda tweeted that, and I didn't see anybody at US Soccer telling him to shut up when he said that Crocker had to be flown over because he was over there at the Euros.
Does US Soccer have any power to tell Winalda to shut up?
No, they've long given up on trying to shut up Eric Winalda since he ran, for president. But, the thing is, the thing about Eric is sometimes I don't know when he's kidding or when he's exaggerating. That's why I said I'm sure that's all out in public. That's all Winalda's tweets or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at least that's what I said on the show, I thought. But that's public. It's out there. You can go to Winalda's X and it's all there. He said those things.
Yeah.
Okay. 1066 is what we've got right now, over 1,000. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your grandma and your stepsister. Can anybody tell me what happened in the year 1066? Let me know. Derek, you used to be a journalist that covered U.S. men's national team, right? What entity did you work for? What were your biggest challenges that you faced? My biggest challenge was it wasn't a full-time paying gig. Okay? It just wasn't back then. Nobody read about soccer 20 years ago. Okay? It was something you did for fun. And for a few bucks on the side. So Soccer 365 was probably my first. And then I did Beyond the Pitch for a while. I don't think Beyond the Pitch exists anymore. I know they still had a page up as of a couple of years ago, but no new content for like ever and ever and ever.
Don't forget about One Love Soccer.
One Love Soccer, that came and went quite quickly. And then the last thing, of course, was Big Soccer, where Brett and I had a show for how many years? 4?
Yeah.
And I was
2014, roughly.
And I was still writing articles. Some I had to yank off the platform for the reasons I explained earlier. And by the way, when we were at Big Soccer, there were things that we couldn't say, and we knew it. Right? There were things we couldn't say. We couldn't curse even on our show. That's saying something. And we never did.
It was weird going back and listening to some of those that you post up and like, there's not a single fuck or shit anywhere in here.
I know, but did you hear how smart I used to be and how dumb I sound now?
You don't sound dumb now, Derek. You just sound angry.
I sound angry, but I use so much bigger words. Now when I come to my brain works and I'm thinking about a big word, I forget it.
Yeah, you go to the Urban Dictionary and the Dirty Language Dictionary, whenever you do stuff, it's always like cum guzzling thunder cunts and stuff like that,
Yeah, yep. Big Soccer is still going strong. It is, but the whole platform's changed. Bill Archer, who is my favorite writer, along with Dan Loney, are gone.
They're still around, people.
Yeah, Bill's still alive. Before we started doing this show live, we had Bill Archer on. But
it was a fun couple episodes there.
It was a couple years ago, wasn't it? 2.5 years ago?
We should check into Bill. That's what he's up to.
Man, Bill Archer is the original curmudgeon writer. Took no shit from anyhow and from anyone.
He was always salty.
And me. He and Grant Wall used to have this ongoing rolling battle. And that's why we brought Grant on so he could respond to Bill. And then we had Bill on to respond to Grant. And it was just crazy town. That's what that was. Mm-hmm. Gunnar Stahl for $5. Thank you. Max takes remind me of the generic and disconnected takes the NBC sports guys. Are we talking about those 3 dudes? One of them's English and the other 2 are American. Yeah. I saw one of the guys today, I watched it briefly, say that coaches have little or to no impact on national teams. Okay, if you say so.
Sure.
No effect whatsoever. No effect at all.
Thanks for the $5, Gunner, and thanks for losing to US hockey in 94, 95, whatever year it was.
Right. I don't even know who those guys are, really. I know they've been on for a while, and I've never really gotten through a whole show. No offense to them. I'm sure they're great, lovely human beings with kids and children and full lives ahead of them. But I don't know who they are. I've never talked to any of them before. Matthew Dominguez for another 2. Thank you, Matthew. Can we have one show where you rehash every drama? Oh, God. I think I might need therapy if I had to go through all that again. Yeah, I mean, the only one I haven't touched on tonight, and there were others, was a report I did as staff writer, and it was criticizing Bradenton at the time. This is a long time ago, like not long after Donovan and Beasley, after that generation left, they had a real black hole of development. So I wrote, and my brother was at the tennis academy, Brent, too. He was I think he was teaching there. He's a tennis guy. And not that he was the leak. He certainly wasn't. But I talked to him.
You didn't use them by name, right?
I don't remember the article even anymore. All I remember the basic topic was, Bradenton sucks. And I got a few, hey, man, can you chill out on why Bradenton's falling apart, man? Because it's not. It's great. IMG is the best academy ever. And there are going to be loads of players coming out of here. There's one kid developing right now named Breck Shea. He's going to be awesome. I don't know if that's what happened. I can't remember. It was years ago. All right. Matthew Dominguez, thank you. Alex Better for $5. 100% sure that the USS pay for shillbots online. What's your source is just a line that accounts repeat the same talking verbatim. I think there's probably some definitely hired bodies out there. I wouldn't be surprised, Alec, at all if that were true. In this case with Jake, I don't know if I very seriously doubt he's getting paid by anybody to call Pete and I, non-journalists and disreputable people, and that anything we report should be disregarded. If you want to, you're certainly welcome to disregard it. Pete and I could give two if you disregard it. But to call us out, I think is kind of weird.
It's a fight that wasn't necessary.
No, it's not. If you got a problem with my report, then point out the shit I got wrong, and then or text me, because you have my text, you have my phone number. All right, I texted you. You didn't text me back. All right.
I don't know, it's just it's something that wasn't necessary, and I don't think it's going to help him in the long run.
No, it's unfortunate. He seems like a nice guy who's got a dark side. That's all I got to say. Seems to have a dark side. N1 BBL3 for $2. Do you prefer edging or gooning? I just recently learned what the word edging means. So
you know what gooning is?
I have no clue.
I don't know what a gooning is. So
I'm afraid to look it up.
I
really am. I'm afraid to look it up. Yeah, because I think I made a comment on one show. I mean, why would it? But I guess I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I get the edging thing. At least I understand the Matthew.
Go ahead and read Matthew's here.
Matthew Dominguez, thank you again, brother, for $2. Speaking of tidbits, GGG getting fired or what? It sure seems that way. When all of the mainstream press sure feels that way, are like, yeah, you don't do this unless he's really going to be let go. So, like, what's the point? What's the point of all this? If you come out Wednesday and say, we had a long conversation with Gregg, we have determined that Gregg is the best manager for this team. He is the greatest CONCACAF manager of all time for U.S. soccer. He has more wins against small island teams than any manager ever in the United States soccer history. And we just felt it was impossible to get rid of him. Yeah, I mean, if that's where they go, I just can't see it happening at this point. Now, at the start, I was cynical. I really was cynical. I'm like, okay, I'll believe it when I believe it, was kind of my feeling, right? The more we're eking along here, and especially with the absolute radio silence from today, yeah, I think he's got to be gone. Because if he wasn't, you would think people are like, oh my God, guys, he's not going to be gone. But, I mean, you got a bunch of board members in there who are all big time, multinational business CEOs, many who have never touched a soccer ball in their lives. They might have touched their own balls, but never soccer balls. So, I mean, I'm sure they have their kids play soccer in some youth league. Okay.
Yeah.
But, if that were a bunch of ex-players on that board, which I understand, you can't have all players on a board. That's probably one-sided.
Get some actual accountants in there, maybe, and then lawyers, and then the rest of the players.
No, I'm sure they got a lawyer in there somewhere. I didn't read everybody's bio.
Our favorite sports lawyer's probably looking for a job there.
I'm sure there's someone in there with a law degree. I would not doubt that. But in the end, the guys that are on the board are basically going to be looking at the bottom line, dollars, cents. We keep Gregg, how hard this is going to hurt our wallet. JT Batson, also the same. If we keep Gregg, how hard this is going to hurt our wallet. Matt Crocker is like, well, wait a minute. Gregg's my best buddy. We share the same vision. He thinks this is a process. I think it's a process. We don't want to abandon the process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in the end, you would think the dollars and cents are going to win, because in the end, you need money to run your program. And that's just a fact. What is this? Is this gooning?
Yep, gooning, a form of masturbation that involves edging, which is maintaining sexual arousal without reaching orgasm for a long period of time, resulting in a hypnotic trance-like state.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, if I've got to choose between edging, which is maintaining the sexual arousal without reaching orgasm, and gooning, which is the exact same thing but entering a hypnotic trance-like state, I'm gonna enter that hypnotic trance-like state.
Okay.
Right?
No, that's cool. No,
I mean, what's the point of doing one without achieving the other?
Did anybody answer my 1066 question in the in the chat?
I did not see, no.
What happened in 1066? It's a big thing. All right. Frank Hassler, 199. Established journalists always use anonymous sources. They absolutely do. In fact, I mean, the easiest reports to do are when that's not the case. Like, you go to a presser and then you ask so-and-so from US Soccer a bunch of questions and then you just report. That's easy. But when critical times like this happen, that requires a different type of journalism, because you're either going to get a standard narrative from the organization itself, or if you're lucky, you can have somebody reach out to you from within the organization to share some info with you that you can trust. Because if you don't trust it, you don't want to share it.
Yeah.
If you don't trust it, don't share it. And I think Pete's even said when I was on his show this weekend, yeah, I got this news source, but I don't trust it at all.
Yeah.
I don't trust it yet, is what he said. So
I wouldn't put it past the opposition to put out fake leaks just to ruin our reputation.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. That's why I'm being so goddamn cautious. When some guy DMs me and says, yeah, Gregg's FIFA, email's been shut off. I mean, what happens when you get, released by a company? Your email gets turned off.
Yeah.
So it's that's the process itself makes sense, but I got no evidence of that. And you can't really provide me evidence, which is, I get it, not all your fault, but I can't post that up anywhere because it come back and bite me in the ass.
So things that happened in 1066. Here we go. We got the chat going.
Sounding happened in 1066?
Sure did.
Oh, no. He's talking sounding happened. You've got the gooning and the soundings when you stick something down your pee-pee hole. Like a stick or something. Like whatever. It sounds horrifying to me.
Was it the Magna Carta?
Horrible. Battle of Hastings is what I was talking about. Well done, Johnny.
No.
Well done, Broken Furnace.
Broken had it way beforehand, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bonus points.
Oh, Jackie did say a bunch of people answered it.
Oh, I'm sorry, missed you. We got on a little talk there. Thanks to all 1,110 of you in here. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your grandma and
I'll come back, Al.
1060 Derek's birth. Right after the Battle of Hastings, in fact.
It was the victory fuck, right?
That's correct. It was a result of a victory.
It's the equivalent of naming yourself after a favorite TV, or naming your child after a favorite TV character. Like with Game of Thrones came out, all of a sudden you had all these Daenerys names popping up in the population, and then they found out that she was a crazy bitch, and then they hated the fact that they named her child.
Yeah, you got to be careful of that, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
Al Weinstein, thank you, brother. Hope you're doing well. For $4.99, U.S. men's national team isn't USF's cash cow. That's not the intersection of cents and cents. The money is in control of supply chains, hospitality, votes, venues. Yeah, but money still really. I mean, they are still right now working on the sponsorship for 2026, right? And if they can't get some of these big ass sponsors that they're working on right now, because the sponsors are going, yeah, I don't know about this Gregg guy, dude. That seems to be stirring up a hornet's nest. I don't know if our company's interested in giving you money for that tournament or being in the commercials or whatever. It just becomes a harder sell if you got a coach that everybody despises, and except for the players. And who cares? The players at this point shouldn't even have a say. Nobody should be on the phone with Pulisic or Adams or anybody else at this point, talking about what they think. We already know what they think. They love Gregg. They've made.
I get to play all the time.
Clear. Yeah, they have made it extremely clear.
Yeah,
and you don't have to love your coach. You don't have to. Some of my best coaches were guys I thought were dicks, but they knew their stuff and they held me accountable. Absolutely, I know if I play bad, I'm out. They're like, you screwed up, you're done, you're out. I'll put another guy in who'll do what the plan was. So, and that goes for almost any sport. Not that I hate using Bobby Knight because that's a really bad example, but pretty much everybody on Alabama, a lot of the players that have played for him have a very hard time getting along with him. They think he's, I don't know, you use whatever word you want. It's not like he was a fuzzy, warm character, Nick Saban, right? Because he wasn't. But they won, and then they won some more. I mean, it helps if you get the best recruits, but point being, you don't have to be a nice guy. And the players and their feelings, just not really important at this point.
Just kicked one of my monitors out of, I kicked the cable of one of my monitors out. Now I'm running off of one monitor.
Well, at least you don't have to watch any games tonight, right?
No, I can fix this. It just requires me to go under my desk.
Yep.
Which I could do here in a second.
Okay.
I would say Tony Mill had the same conversation today, actually. I guess it's weird looking at it like this. Hold on one second. I can mix it. He talked about how, like, like him and Jimmy were talking about, like, under Bruce. It was when you went out, when it was serious time, he was very serious. But when it was like not on the pitch, serious time, he's like, hey, go have fun. It wasn't very much of a curfew type of guy. He relied on the players to kind of do their own thing and realize that, hey, don't go out there and act like an asshole. But then when Bob Bradley came, he was very much a Ted Lasso type of, we're going to do this time, we're going to do this time. There's a curfew. Make sure you're in at this point.
Don't be late.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and Bob wasn't everybody's cup of tea. The first 11 guys loved him. The 3 guys that came in liked him. But I'm sure there weren't guys on the team I'm sure there were guys that didn't like him.
Yeah.
And I think Miola talked about that a little today too. Like, hey man, there I had coaches I didn't like. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not naming names, but Jimmy, Conrad, you've had coaches you did not like. And Jimmy's like, yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a prerequisite. Building this, as Miola puts it, this kumbaya community is not the goal of the soccer team. It's about winning games, period. And, if Jesse takes Canada, oh, God.
Blame Canada.
I mean, the chances they get past Argentina are slim. I understand that. But weirder shit's happened. Weirder shit has happened. And Jesse's got to be loving every minute of this.
Mm-hmm.
He's
absolutely.
Not because he's sticking it to us, guys, because he's sticking it to U.S. Soccer, who he said treated him poorly.
Yeah.
And Matarazzo had sort of the same inference in an interview as well. Like, I don't think I was treated all that well during the process. So, which is odd because he's not coming up on anybody's not. He's coming on very few mainstream media lists as a potential manager. So,
oddly enough, it's strange, Before we jump into the Gregg topic and potential replacements and stuff, I know we were kind of dabbling into it there. Let's go over a couple of transfer newses. We'll hit the last couple super chats, and then we'll hit the main topic here.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, we kind of already started on the main topic there.
I know, but I'd hate to do transfer news as the send off. That seems a little strange, don't you think?
Right.
You can jump in the main topic and do transfer news later. It doesn't really matter. But
no, let's just get it over with real quick.
All right, transfer
news. Who's getting monitored on transfer news? Who's getting over on transfer news? Transfer news. Everyone loves that transfer news, but me. Whatever.
All right, Tom, don't bogart that joint. My friend Selleck says sources Chelsea and Atlanta United agreed to a deal. And by the way, Tom's a real journalist. He wasn't for the day he didn't have a job, the 2 days. But now that he's back to being hired again, he is a reputable journalist, according That's how it works. Can't take off time. All that time you take off from not being a journalist makes you not a journalist anymore. Sources: Chelsea and Atlanta United agree to a deal for United States left back Caleb Wiley. Transfer fees $11 million, and Atlanta keep the sell-on percentage. Wiley to sign a 7-year contract to go on loan. Yes, and we knew this, to Strasbourg on first agree. Yeah. He's going to be part of the loan army there for quite a long time. Just ask Matt Miazga how that works out. All right. Thank you, Tom.
Real quick, where'd it go? There we go. I want to pull this up.
Wow, 2009 YouTube wants their jingle back.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
That's a good one, man. It's so true, too. All right. U.S. men's national team Debacle says Weston McKennie to SC Cincinnati is cooled a little bit. It's been described that it's more unlikely than likely a deal gets done. It's more unlikely. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
I was getting a little nervous there at first.
Yeah, me too for a while. This talk went on for on and on and on. I'm thinking, wow.
Cincy fans didn't help us out either, man. They just kept piling on and trolling.
Listen, I understand why they want Weston McKennie on their team.
Sure.
I get it. But, I mean, as far as Weston going and still playing at some really high levels, you're only young once. You're only at the top of your game once. He just needs to shave off 10 pounds and go play for another, mid to large team somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Preferably not the Premier League. Preferably back to Germany, maybe. Or with some other, Italian team with a chance to be fighting for Champions League soccer. Something like that.
I wouldn't oppose a mid-table team that's not necessarily competing for Champions League. I mean, obviously, if you're mid-table, you're obviously competing until the very end of the season. But
there'll be like five or six teams in Italy fighting for those Champions League spots every year.
Especially since there are more Champions League spots. No, maybe I'm mixing up things here. Doesn't really matter. Chamber says word from Cincy is West wanted Messi money.
Not shocking.
He was going to get they were talking about 10 or 12 mil, man.
Well, they're talking
about some stupid amount.
That is the issue that Wes and his agent have right now with Juventus. They made an offer. He's like, that still makes me underpaid by guys that you have signed here that ride pine. That's what the agent's arguing. And he's correct. There are players with bigger salaries on Juventus who don't play anywhere near as much as McKennie that make more money than he does.
Mm-hmm.
I understand his frustration. I understand it. Okay. Source, Luca De La Torre has interest from San Diego SC and Sporting KC. San Diego FC, I understand, because he is hairy. He's quite hairy, and we know how San Diego
they love their hairy guys.
They lean towards the hairiest guys, especially youth players. They will advance their players through
very mature for your age.
They advance their players through the system faster if they have premature hair growth on their chest or nutsack area. Anyhow, that's a play on the interview.
Which makes the announcement of any homegrown player kind of awkward.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure some of the things we say as jokes that some people have a hard time understanding are jokes. No, San Diego is not actually going to do that. But based on the interviews that were done with the new San Diego FC owners and the way they work their youth system, some of those quotes were hilarious. And it might be because it's
paraphrasing, basically saying you've got to have hairy balls. Not word for word by any means,
no.
But
we say absurd things here, like Matt Miazga kicked Berhalter's dog. That doesn't mean that it's true. And I know that got shared everywhere, but it's a joke, people. It's a joke. Miazga never kicked Berhalter's dog, allegedly. And I mean, there have been many other jokes that we said that unfortunately some people took seriously. It's like, what? I remember when that came up on Jason Davis said it on his show. He's like, yeah, somebody was saying, yeah, that's gonna kick Berhalter's dog. I don't. That's not true.
That can't be right.
That's not true. I'm like, Jason, it's not.
Of course, it's not true.
It's a joke.
What's the matter with you?
Apparently, maybe that's what Jake's calling us out for. We haven't
fake dog news.
Yeah. We haven't confirmed our sources on that. Yeah.
No, what are you talking about? I'm going to check the chat because Berhalter's dog might be in the chat at this point. He's not. Okay. But he's in every now and then, man. He talks about how meows all the time.
Players happy in Spain, but playing time is paramount for lead up to World Cup. His contract with Celta runs through 2026. I mean, I'm sure he's nervous with the new manager because he obviously was the old manager's best buddy. Well, not best buddy. We know that's not true. Best buddy's not true because he had to work for his spot. But he was a starter for the most part. And at the end of the season, he wasn't with the new manager. So if he's worried about playing time, I'm sure he can find another Spanish team to play for.
Sure. And
get a loan or whatever, So I don't think he needs to come to Harry United
or go back to Holland. Or whatever, there are locations where he can go. And he's been in Europe for so long. Like in his late teens, like 16, right? Year old. I mean, he was at Fulham's academy for a while.
And I'm sure he's looking at the configuration of the current rosters and going, wait a minute. So like 2 guys from MLS make the squad? Yeah. If I go back to MLS,
I'm out there saying that more MLS players need to be on the squad.
I mean, if Max Bretos was the coach, I'd go back to, he probably would go to San Diego FC and the Wizards, the Wiz. But I don't think that's happening because I'm sure everybody looks at the fact that Miles Robinson and Johnson. So am I missing anybody where there another MLS player on the team?
Miles Johnson. And no, that was it. It was no more.
Shaq Moore, right? Because of the Dest injury. So I mean, if I'm looking that, I'm like, if I go to San Diego FC, I might disappear off the radar. So I don't think that's going to happen unless they pay him out the butt, out the the wazoo. It's possible, but McKennie didn't get wazoo money. I don't know why you gave it to Luca De La Torre because I don't think he's that big of a draw in comparison to McKennie. All right. What else we got?
I mean, he'll make more money in MLS than he will in Europe moving forward. I mean, MLS will pay. See, that's the type of move that Max should have been talking about from the get-go instead of saying Pulisic, McKennie, or Gio will be in MLS before 2026. Although he almost got it with West, and may still happen. Who knows? But he should have been talking about players like Luca De La Torre, who are, whatever, like he's like 26 range, 26 area, 27?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. There are younger kids that are playing over him right now. And he's fighting for a spot in La Liga right now. Even if he's playing consistently, I mean, he's going to make more money by coming back to MLS. That would have been the person that I would put more of my eggs in the basket for.
Yeah, I'm sure glad Weston signed for Cincy, or we'd have to mail Max a free straight red card shirt.
Dude, when you're right, you're right. I guess you had this one nailed. It's always possible.
That's all prognostication, Anyone can get right once or twice.
Well, and nobody in the right mind after Weston's season with Juve would think that he would be coming to MLS at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that was fairly. It was a good season for Wes. Mm-hmm. So, all right.
That's all of them. And since we got called out for our other transfer news video, I wanted to play the original one because I feel like that's even worse.
Okay. So, transfer news. Everybody loves that transfer news, but me.
I mean, all right. Very classy.
Oh yeah. Very very thin. Well, for all 1,150-ish of you here, make sure you like, subscribe, share it with grandmother and your stepsister. We appreciate you being here tonight.
I'm going to hold that off because that's going to lead us into the next topic, last topic. Let's do these last couple of super chats and then we'll move on.
All right. Bear Bryant played Blacks 15 years before USA men's national team. I could be right. I don't know. I'd have to do the math, but probably correct. And there are lots of circumstances for that. Huh?
I don't get the reference.
Bear Bryant was a football coach.
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't get it then.
Okay. College football coach.
Fair enough.
All right. Frank Castler for $1.99. Pulisic knows only GGG will let him have set pieces. Could be. I don't think that's the only reason. I think some of these players are definitely comfortable with Gregg. And Gregg, has made them leaders on this team. So, yeah. I mean, listen, if everything's cushy at your job, you don't want a new boss. New bosses could be scary. New boss could, do a total reassessment of you and your job and what you do. Your current boss that loves you leaves, and there's a new boss coming to town. You really don't know what to expect. Most people like to go into work and know what they're going to expect. New boss, probably you're starting all over again. They might pressure you. They might ask for information to do things you've never done before. They might push you harder. Stanley for $2. Where do you think Gregg will work next? I have no idea, but it'll probably be an MLS somewhere.
He's certainly not going to get a Europe gig. I mean, I know that was the talking point exiting last cycle, is that Gregg had all these opportunities in Europe.
And Mexico.
They didn't amount to shit.
And Mexico. Yeah. I didn't believe any of it. I really didn't.
Copa America, I believe, is the one that was going to be vying for him in Mexico, if I recall correctly.
Can you believe that? If Club America took Gregg, that would be a shocker for me, for sure. Yeah. If that were true.
No, that's not Chicago Fire. Swear to God.
Oh, like your coach right now is that much better.
I know, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I mean, it can't get worse, can it? I guess.
Yes, I can have more years of Gregg. Of course, it could get worse. Think I'll be all of a sudden excited if he's coaching Chicago? No.
I mean, it's pretty bad right now.
I know what to expect here. It's we're absolutely a wild card from being able to come back from a 3-0 deficit to a win 4-3 and then lose to the league's worst team, San Jose, 1-0. Whatever.
It's your life, not mine.
Yeah. This is the bet I made, Derek. I'm going to continue to sleep in it, okay?
I'd rather be an LA Galaxy fan right now.
Take one for the team, Brett. Okay. If it came down to having Gregg as the U.S. men's national team coach or him as Chicago coach, I'll take him at Chicago. I will bite the bullet for that one, okay?
Fair enough. That's dedication.
That is dedication, yeah. Speaking of Gregg, let's go ahead and jump into that topic.
A decision has been made, says Eric Winalda. They now have to figure out how they can afford it, which might mean that he sticks around a bit. BJ leaving was very telling. I think I brought this up with Pete too. It's like, yeah, it's too bad. But, BJ's got to go on with his life at some point too.
Do you think that's what he says? BJ leaving was very telling in the sense that Gregg's assistant coaches are finding other gigs themselves.
Well, that whole BJ to Nashville thing's been going on and whispered for about a couple of weeks now, that whole talk. Yeah. So I don't know if it was telling or not. I have no way of saying.
It might have been more convincing. There's obviously talk, and maybe Nashville was really interested. They're pursuing it, but maybe the fact that he's leaving is telling because, again, if Gregg's not going to be there, then most likely BJ won't be there. So he's going to go ahead and accept that gig.
I mean, there are other mid-level guys that could come on and do the intern role if you needed it for a while. I heard people posting stuff like Gregg will stay on through September. And I'm like, really? I don't think so. I think he's gone. And if I'm Gregg, do I really want to stay on as a intern manager through September just for kicks and giggles as they find a new person? I don't think Gregg will want to do that.
I would say, well, maybe he's doing that while he's, looking for another gig. But then again, he's going to get paid the money from U.S. Soccer regardless. Contract. So why would he want to do another month or two here? 2 months, I guess, of a job where you're constantly going to get berated by, a fan base that don't trust you anymore.
Well, they
are constantly asking you to get out of here because they no longer have faith. I mean, again, Tony Meola talks about how he's seen nothing but regression since Gregg's been back, which is the whole reason why the one cycle club is a thing.
Yes. Listen, 4 years is a long time to have the same coach. And it gets stale. After a while, it gets stale. Especially all this kumbaya shit. Like Meola was saying today, when I was a player, we had great chemistry. Teams I played on for U.S. Soccer had great chemistry. We never walked around talking about it constantly over and over and over again. What's that about? Most of these players have known each other since they were young. Of course they have good chemistry. Of course they like each other. They've been playing on youth teams together. It's like, how hard was that effort? Really, how hard was it? How difficult was it to build chemistry amongst this team? Well, apparently, chemistry off the pitch. A little difficult on the pitch, especially in the final third. No chemistry there. No chemistry there.
At all in the final third, yes.
I know. Do you mean how they can afford his buyout, or how can they afford the target they're going after, or both? Both, obviously. It's still uncertain as to what exactly the sponsorship dollars will look like, since we have to share with Canada, Mexico, and FIFA. For once, they have more accountants in the room than lawyers. I guess that's a step in the right direction. I don't know what to even say to this. What am I supposed to say? I mean,
obviously they're looking at the cost to buy out and the cost of the target, and they're looking at the sponsorship dollars to accomplish that. But why would they have? I understand why if it was a World Cup sponsor, they'd have to share with Canada, Mexico, and FIFA. But why would that have anything to do with us vying for the money, finding the money for a coach?
And why did U.S. Soccer tell Doug McIntyre to break the news that no, hiring the new men's coach would have nothing to do with Emma getting paid the same?
Oh, yeah.
Which makes everything Casey Keller said. That contradicts Casey Keller. That contradicts Davies. Who else does it contradict? At least one more person who said it publicly. McBride. Yeah. So I said, Brian McBride said one thing, Seb Lawless and Doug say another. This is why stuff is confusing. And Socrates said that it's not. McBride is wrong. It's that simple. You would think McBride would know something. He just left U.S. Soccer not long ago. Yeah. I mean, that whole ordeal was going on while he was there. But apparently, and I said this in my tweet, and we all know this, that Doug is very close to the people at U.S. Soccer. He, provides his ear to them. So if Doug says this, I'm going to have to believe it, because they love Doug McIntyre at youth soccer. They really do. It's one of those things, because everybody was quoting when I said this. All the other chats were quoting the CBAs. And what did the CBAs say? I almost wonder if the Emma, what Brian's talking about, the equal pay between Emma and Gregg Berhalter, that type of thing, was done on good faith. Not necessarily because they're legally bound to, but maybe it was good faith. Well, we're doing this we're doing equality amongst the men and the women's game.
We just had this whole, massive lawsuit. So when we're hiring the new coach, let's just give Emma what they're getting.
I have no clue.
But again, but that would make sense because Doug is saying that there is no correlation there. Seb Lawless also the same thing. That no, they don't have to be paid the same thing.
Right. And Doug voicing the narrative for U.S. Soccer, as he did with Jimmy. And if Doug is saying something, it's not because he's making some sort of projection or prognostication. Doug has talked to somebody. He didn't just make this up. Somebody at U.S. Soccer said, "Hey, Doug, we need you to clear this up for us." Mm-hmm. And he said, "All right, clear up what?" And he said, "Hey, man, we can pay the men's coach whatever we want. So this thing about Emma and all that having to be the same, not true. It's not true." So that means if we do hire someone new, and somebody who was it today? Oh, it might have been Miola, could have been Jimmy, said that when U.S. Soccer earlier on had reached out to Klopp's agent, he wanted $10 million a year.
It was one. I think it was one of those two. It was definitely Jimmy or Tony, one of the two.
I can't remember, which one of the two it was. So, I mean, $10 million is a big number for a national team coach. That's a big number. I mean, the highest paid national team coach in Copa right now is what? Bielsa?
Or like something?
4.8 or something like that. So,
well, I mean, the $10 million a year, I mean, that's a massive chunk of what U.S. Soccer brings in, quite frankly.
I like
not realistic.
I like that Jacopo Belbo must be like 20 minutes behind us because he said
William the Conqueror.
William the Conqueror. Yes, you're correct. If you catch up to us, you'll notice we were giving you credit for being correct.
He has invaded and took over England, defeated Harold at the Battle of Hastings.
That's correct. 1066, baby. And forever changed the way people in England spoke because the Normans brought their language with them. Anyhow, Brad McBride says one thing. Yeah, we just did that one. So ESPN Sebi Salazar says, "I really wish Seb and Herc and Eric would just work that out. I just wish they would work it out together. Like, it's so personal. And I know it goes back a while. And I know Seb said what he said.
Was it before the World Cup? Or did it happen before the World Cup? Or are we talking about the whole releasing of the beginnings of GeoGate?
It was GeoGate, I believe.
Fair enough.
He basically said that Eric Winaldo's a spotlight seeker. So I don't know if that was, maybe there was something before that. I don't even know, but that seemed like the beginning of like at least the verbal jabs, right? I don't think there's anybody in USSF that wants to get rid of Gregg Berhalter. They're trying to see if the pressure dies down. Every day they buy, it's an opportunity for U.S. men's national team fandom to shut up. I don't think they're going to shut up.
No,
if the fans shut up, they're going to win. No, they're not.
So you know who will shut up in the end is the mainstream media. They're the ones that are going to move on from this. The fans will continue to push.
They've been writing their articles now. I mean, and everybody's saying Greg out. Greg's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody from Max Bretos to Jimmy Conrad's been saying it since after the World Cup.
He's a one cycle.
He's a one cycle purist. Wallace is saying it now. You think he's going to go back on that?
No. I said he was a one cycle purist.
He was a one cycle purist, yes, and then he made an exception to his rule. Jacob, there's a super chat there.
Yep, doesn't pull up.
Jacopo Belbo says for $5, William the Conqueror invaded England, defeated Harold at the Battle of Hastings, becoming King of England. Eventually later that way. That is absolutely, you nailed it. Way to go.
Thanks for that $5, man. It's awesome.
Yep.
I love history. That type of history is my shtick. I don't know that personally because I never really followed too terribly close English history, but like just the whole medieval time period.
Yeah.
It's probably the most interesting time period for me.
Is there a good movie on that battle? I wonder. You think there's been one? I don't remember one in particular. The Battle of Hastings.
I don't know. I can't think one.
I'm sure there is one out there. Salazar is Herc's fluffer. They yell at each other constantly. They are friends, but they disagree, and when they do, it gets heated, man, between those two.
And of late, especially some of the shows, I think Sim's been sort of taking to compare him to another podcast. He's been kind of taking the Jimmy Conrad role of the podcast, where he kind of leads the show
because they got multiple guests.
Where they're going, yeah. So
it's always tough when you have multiple guests. When it's just those two, it's a battle. Leverdad for $1.99. Thank you, brother. Hope you're well. Betty Crocker hired Berhalter out of Easy Bake Oven. Well, okay. The real truth of the matter is that Betty and Gregg see eye to eye on the whole process building, one step at a time. Culture's important. All that stuff. They both have read the same books. They both come from the same way of looking at the game. And no, I'm sorry I mentioned on Pete's show, I think that you can go out there and still find the Southampton document, the PDF, about how they were going to build their whole team and the process. It's a model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't find it anymore. It used to be public. There was a PDF. You could read it. I don't know where it went. I looked it up. I cannot find it anymore. But it is like, no wonder these two guys get along. They both think they are philosophers of the game. And like they're bringing something new, like learning communities and building culture is a new thing. No, it's not.
So
no,
yeah,
it's not.
I was having a back and forth with Sean on Twitter. I think it's Sean Brooks. I think is his name. I can't recall.
John's brother.
Yeah, exactly. And we're having a back and forth as far.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Derek, you're going to kill all the jokes if you keep telling people it's a joke.
I have to because, now people are going to say Derek said John Brooks was John Brooks' brother. It's a joke, people. It's a joke.
But we're running back and forth as far as the whole Jesse, being bitter towards U.S. soccer right now. And he had mentioned, he's like, this is sort of like just like any form of hiring process. He went up against another person and he didn't get the job. And now he's bitter about it. I'm like, well, I think it's a little bit different than that because you have Jesse who got let go from Leeds in January. And then at that point and then you had Betty Crocker was hired from US Soccer in March.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was March. So there's a 3-month window there. In that time period, Jesse got offered both the Leicester gig and the Southampton, which is where Betty Crocker was from. He said no to both. Technically speaking, he wanted a longer tenure instead of they're offering him just throughout the rest of the season, and then they'll readdress his contract during the summer. And he wanted something longer term or whatever. So he didn't take either of those gigs. All in the meantime, from talking with Diego, he mentioned it over a year ago. Between what Jesse said and what Eric said, it was sort of kind of being leaned into the fact that Jesse was going to get the gig. But then all of a sudden, Betty Crocker gets hired in March.
Listen, I'm going to
in June.
Listen, we love Eric, we love Diego, but I'm taking Jesse's words. Jesse on his last show with Jimmy said, I was treated badly. What it sounds like to me is they essentially verbally, he thought he had the job. That's what, of course, Eric says. And that's what Diego says.
Yes.
And then, unceremoniously, it was yanked from under him. Yeah, he's a little bitter about that. And that is completely understandable. He's got a new job, so he's got to move on. Jesse Marsh not leading into the history of significance of Tuesday semifinal. He insists this is another game in the team's process. But Marsh says coaching Canadians men's national team feels like home. I'm at the point in my life where I don't want to deal with bullshit. I'm sure if he had a rocky Copa, there might be some bullshit he'd have to deal with too. So I don't think he's living in a bullshitless world, but he is living in a world where there were a bunch of Canadian team owners from MLS teams that came together and said, we really want this guy. Let's put our money together and go get this guy. So it sounds like he's got a lot of support and a lot of support from the director there at the Canadian men's national team that made it really clear they were, seeking him out and him alone. So I'm sure he feels supported, where I think he feels like this whole rigmarole he had to go with through the U.S. Soccer and their battery of mental and leadership tests. I'm sure he thought that was just silly as hell. He might not, but
so I'd be curious to find out. You could easily do it, I'm sure, but what's in between, in between it feels like home and then the I'm at a point. Does he bring up U.S. Soccer? Because I know Tax sounds like Jesse's taking a direct shot at U.S. Soccer. I mean, from the question that's asked in this thing, talking about the significance of the game coming up here. I mean, without any other context, it would make me think that he's just talking about the bullshit about the significance and the importance of the upcoming gig, because it's just another game. So right. I don't know if there's necessarily a connection between this quote and U.S. Soccer. There might be. Again, I don't know what's in between home and I'm at this point.
I felt like if he's talking about bullshit, he could be intimating that his time at Leeds had a lot of bullshit at the end.
Yeah.
He could be intimating his interview process with U.S. Soccer is bullshit. It's impossible to know because he doesn't specify. By the way, all 12,000 and almost 10 of you.
12,000, Derek. Good Lord. We got a lot of people here.
One, not to be misquoted, damn it. All 1,210 of you that have been here, make sure you like, subscribe, share it with your grandma. We do appreciate it. We have been on now for 2 hours and 18 minutes. It's been a free ride. Take it easy. Yeah, I don't even like that song. Why did that come up in my head? I hate that song.
Good question. Don't know. All right.
Here we go. This is the interview where Doug McIntyre lets you know what his conversations with his U.S. Soccer person has told him what narrative to begin discussing.
Any timestamps on this, or are we just listening to the whole 6 minutes?
Well, you can move it forward to when Jimmy actually starts the interview, but it's not that long, so I think we can play most of it. Here we go.
Into it, there was some huge news, Fox exclusive news about the status of Gregg Berhalter from U.S. Soccer, and it's going to be announced midweek. So, Doug, do you have any updates to this story? Because inquiring minds want to know.
Well, Jimmy, I can tell you that a lot of people took yesterday's Fox Sports exclusive that a decision will be made by the middle of next week. That it was a sign.
So yeah, if he's saying that middle of next week, that confirms it's middle of next week. Now, whether that's you can consider Tuesday to be middle or Wednesday or Thursday, middle usually means Wednesday.
Usually, yeah.
Now, if they stay totally locked down about what they've decided, we might not get anything tomorrow either. We might not. Generally, what will happen is the board has met. They've, either in person or through Zoom, probably both, a mix of both. They've done their vote. They've made their decision. And then now whatever happens, happens. That means on Tuesday they might have to meet with Gregg if he's not already there.
Mm-hmm.
And then form the narrative, and that gets announced on Wednesday. I mean, Doug doesn't say all of that, but that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Because this takes a while. This isn't going to just be snappy for them. They're not a snappy organization.
Yeah. And I know he obviously mentions Cherundolo in the end here. And I believe I think you mentioned, whether it was on that video or on Twitter, that there's a reason why he brought Cherundolo.
Yes.
And the fact that obviously he's being talked about.
It's not only that did he have the Cherundolo news report, he also had all the bullet points worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it when he talks about Dolo.
So
he's already broke down the narrative of why he qualifies as the right person.
He's setting the foundation, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So I mean, I guess in this sense, because obviously, before Crocker, obviously we had Ernie and Gregg and Brian and everybody that was organizing this system that they want to implement from the ground down, from top up or top down. This whatever, the 4-3-3, what we classify as the Berhalter ball. It was a system that was orchestrated with Ernie and everybody else.
Right.
Now, obviously, we have Crocker, who's still pushing along that system, that organization, the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think U.S. Soccer would be willing to break the bank for a big name Euro or South American coach that's not going to want to play that specific system? Or do you think they're going to pick somebody who they think they probably control? And I'm not saying Cherundolo can be controlled. I'm just saying that most likely he's part of the system. He's been played for us and everything like that. Do you think he'd be easier to control into the system that they are trying to push?
If they go out and go get a big name, they're going to give that guy all the power. Matt Crocker might as well not be there anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly, because you're Matt Crocker. You're Jurgen Klopp's boss. Yeah, right. No, you're not. You're his bitch. You're Jurgen Klopp's bitch, and he's going to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So if you go out and get a big name, I don't think they go out and get. I think they want to maintain some sense of, and they've said this over and over again, playing style, identifiable playing style. That's what they're shooting for, right? But in the end, I don't think Klopp's playing style is that far off from what they're talking about. So I think they'd be ready to embrace that. But if you think U.S. Soccer going to tell Jurgen Klopp how to play, that ain't happening. It just ain't happening. So if they go out there and make that kind of big move, probably no reason to have Matt Crocker around. They might as well make Jurgen Klopp the director and the manager of the team, because I don't know what his usefulness will be anymore, because Jurgen Klopp ain't getting fired before 2026. That ain't happening.
Certainly isn't going to listen to Matt Crocker.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of making my point in the sense that I'm not going to sit here and assume that U.S. Soccer is going to plan to bring over a big name by any means. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just going to cycle in somebody else that's in and around.
Well, let me ask you, with all the names out there that are possible, Doug ain't coming onto the show and pumping up Dolo because he's Dolo's best friend. No, somebody's told him something. It's not like Doug McIntyre and Steve Cherundolo are bosom buddies. It's not like they meet and have reach arounds together.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolute. And then the way he lays it out with the bullet points, like he's got it all. He's got the whole narrative going. As if somebody said, well, here's why we're thinking about Dolo. Can you test fire this out there for us and see what people think? And here's why we think he'd be a good guy for the job. and they gave him the reasons, and he wrote them down, and he knows them.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
And that Gregg Berhalter isn't coming back. I can tell you that no decision has been made yet. And there are people within U.S. Soccer that still want to bring Berhalter back. So we're going to have to see how the next few days shake out. I think there is an acknowledgement within the organization that Berhalter's radioactive right now. He's
so that word radioactive, by the way, is not something he made up. There's no way you come up with that term unless someone there told you right now. To be honest, Doug, this is on the phone or Zoom or whatever meeting it was. He's a little bit radioactive, but we haven't made a decision yet. So
I blame all the toxic fans for making him radioactive. I mean, it's just bound to happen. You're around that much toxicity.
I just don't think Doug's not a guy who deals with, hey, I'm coming on a Jimmy show to share my own personal opinion. Right? That's not what Doug does. It's kind of like when U.S. Soccer called up Jeff Carlisle to leak the Berhalter stuff. They want to help provide Jeff Carlisle the blackmail narrative. So that word gets in there somehow or somewhere in that article because it's the narrative there. They're purveying, right? And in this case, Doug's telling him what he's heard and what he's been told. I mean, surely he's not coming on and being a disreputable journalist and just making shit up out of thin air. No, he's talked to somebody because he's really close with U.S. Soccer people.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
A guy that's going to be hard to bring out in front of fans, in front of sponsors, and get everyone on the same page. So we'll have to see how it shakes out. But the idea that Berhalter is gone, that decision has already been made, is not true.
Okay.
That's it.
So, I mean, I put that in my tweet. And, but as we move forward through today, it just seems more and more like more people think or feel. This goes for Jimmy and Miola and Davies today are like, is it really possible on Wednesday they could walk out? City Parlo Cohn's going to walk out in front of some mic with JT Batson and say, after an assessment, we've decided, despite all the angry fans and the fact that Gregg's a little radioactive and he's a hard guy to march out in front of sponsors and fans, we're going to keep him. It seems so crazy if that's true.
I think it was Davies who said that, and I loved how he worded it. He goes, after a long assessment this week, we've decided we're going to keep Gregg.
Yeah, that's just going to go over like a lead balloon. A lead balloon. Telling you.
Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like with the whole announcement and everything like that, that's being announced and everything, that something's changing. What's changing and to what degree is it changing is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, it's some people will say, well, this is the same thing that happened to Vlatko. So the writing's on the wall. Doug's just coming out and saying what his contact said because it happened during the weekend, right?
Oh wait, I didn't hear his contact's name. What was his contact's name? He divulged.
Oh no,
source,
he didn't.
Right?
He's not going to tell.
He divulged. He's reputable. He has to have divulged. He has to have given us his source.
You have to give your source. U.S. Soccer.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me if it was Neil or Michael Cameron or JT Batson himself. Because guess what? JT Batson does not get to make this decision on his own. In fact, he doesn't even have a vote. That's on the board in City Parlo Cohn. That's how nonprofits work. I'm sure JT Batson's doing his very best as the money guy, the guy who knows it's going to be hard to trot a radioactive Gregg out in front of sponsors. quote, to say, hey, we got to move on. Big 2026 is coming. We could be making a shit ton of money, and a lot more money than right now we've been able to accumulate leading up to the 2026 World Cup, but we could have sponsors left and right. Let's shoot for the stars. Let's get a big ass name in here and do something. I mean, you had the FIFA guy come, right, to US Soccer and MLS and say to both of them, hey, 2026 coming up, said Infantino. All of you guys got to do something big as we lead up to this. No more thinking small. You guys need to start thinking. Don't think like my name, Infantino. You want to go to Giganticus. Don't think Infantino, think Giganticus. He wants us to do something big. All right, what do we got? We got more.
Yeah, we got more. Are we doing the whole thing, or you tell me when we're ending? Okay.
Okay. No, we got.
I'm very
got to do the Dolo stuff.
Yeah. You tell me when we end this interview, okay? For Jimmy's interview, okay?
We just got to get through Dolo. Yeah.
Curious to see how the fans respond to that, because I feel like that's not going to make everybody that excited, right? We got 2 years to go before we ramp up to 2026, and so
well, I think Doug's just delivering a matter-of-fact fact. He talked to somebody, they're like, no decision's been made. We meet on Monday. I mean, it's that easy. Like, of course they're going to say that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you can't make a decision. It's been, maybe they should all got together. Apparently, a chunk of them got together last week. But everybody's got to get together if you're going to make this big-ass decision. And if you have ever run a nonprofit, and I ran one for 8 years, Bloomington Restorations Incorporated, when a big-ass decision has to be made, the board has to make that decision. It ain't just one person. The executive director ain't making that decision all on his own in a nonprofit. Critical decisions and massive changes like this would be are made by the board and voted on by the board. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I forgive you, Derek.
I just feel like I got to keep interrupting this so we don't ding by it.
I know it's the worst, isn't it?
I know. Come on, Jimmy, don't ding us.
First, I want to talk about the realistic names. Let's say that they do make the decision to not go forward with Gregg Berhalter. Who do you think could be viable for the U.S.?
Bam! Dolo.
End of demo.
Well, the first name that comes to mind, because he checks a lot of boxes, is Steve Cherundolo, a guy you know well, Jimmy.
And here are the boxes.
Yeah, it's funny that it's the first one that comes to mind.
I mean, it's no accident this is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Now, and he's not going to tell you, well, I talked to some of you guys. I talked to US Soccer, and he gave me all the info I just shared with you the last 5 minutes of this interview. But now I'm going to just give you my opinion. Nah, I don't think so. Bob's your uncle for $1.99. Herb Bernard. Or F it. Let Deuce run this mofo. I don't think Deuce wants to do that, man. I really don't. I don't think he wants any part of that. But thank you for the $1.99. I think Herb Bernard's a good pick, but news just came out today. Herb Bernard won't be free until after the Olympics, which isn't that long from now.
Yeah.
So, it's not like forever and ever. But
forever. Yeah.
I mean, he did say he will be free after the Olympics. He did say that. So there you go.
And that could, I mean, there you go. I mean, if Gregg's going to be hanging around, or maybe Gregg's team is going to be hanging around through September, maybe.
Jesse Negron says, I think it's actually be Klopp. Listen, from your lips to God's ears. I mean, if it were Klopp, there's going to be jizz flying all over U.S. men's national team, fan apartments, houses, rooms. There'll be massive cleanups needed in aisles across supermarkets everywhere as they look at their phone while they're shopping for some fresh vegetables. And then they jizz in their pants as soon as Klopp is announced. Yeah, it'll be a practical, U.S. Soccer fandom orgy in one's own drawers. So, all right,
I'm making sure I didn't miss Johnny saying he missed a super chat. Yeah.
Maloney is going. What are we?
R-word.
Adams in the showers. Man, I really read some of his stuff and just have no effing clue what he's talking about.
I was showing you, Derek.
Yeah, I saw, but I still don't get it. All right.
Yeah, he's a big Maloney fan.
Oh, okay. David D saying N-word with a hard R.
Don't worry about that. Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Unless the super is just downright offensive in the wrong way here. We generally put everything up there. People are paying us for it. Yeah. Johnny's got a sense of humor when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah, but let's not use any nasty words. I don't think he did. I didn't see it. Derek doesn't get it. That's why Brett's here, Larry, because Larry, I often don't understand what you're saying.
I translate, Larry.
Yeah. I think it's a generational thing mostly. Like I just don't get it.
My understanding is that Larry is probably right in our range. Derek.
I think he's younger. He just had a kid.
Oh, fair enough. Good call.
He's more in your
closer to my
than
range.
mine.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. I was there for the whole.
Maybe that's why I understand it.
I was there for the civil rights movement. I'm sure people will joke somewhere around that, but
where did he talk? 1066. Remember?
It's a little before my time, even. I'll say, here are the bullet points.
Doesn't have a ton of head coaching experience, but in the short time he's been with the LAFC, he's won trophies. He's won a Supporters Shield. He's won an MLS Cup. Went to another MLS Cup final. Went to a CONCACAF final. Obviously, a guy that was a great servant for the program for many years. Was on 3 World Cup teams for the U.S. He had some experience as an assistant coach in the Bundesliga. Worked with youth teams in Germany as well, and has been a part-time assistant helping out with the U.S. Senior team at times as well. Way back in 2018 during Dave Sarakin's run as interim coach. Toronto was around during.
I have to pause it somewhere there, man.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously this is an endorsement practically, but it's not just Doug. It's not just Doug. Somebody told him, hey, we're thinking about Dolo. Why don't you float that for us? And here's some talking points.
Well, I mean, the talking points that are always going to get brought up here. The big issue with Dolo in the sense is that he has very few years as an actual coach, like a first team coach, not necessarily an assistant here or an assistant there. He just doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of experience in that from. So.
Yeah, but he is part of the old club.
Sure.
He's part of the club being, he'll fit in. He won't be a massive shaker-upper. It's somebody that Matt Crocker can still be the boss of, right?
Yeah.
You hire Klopp, you're not being Klopp's boss. You're not the boss anymore.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, we saw how well the team performed with a coach that had a little more hands off and what they could do. So maybe they're looking at it going like, we don't necessarily have to go and get the most experienced coach out there to get a lot out of this team. So I don't know.
I mean, Klopp's a smart guy. He knows he's not going to be able to joystick this team. He's not a real joystick guy anyhow. I mean, he has his system, but it's pretty free flowing. I think he'd go, okay, I get it. But the thing is, he's in Mallorca right now having a great time, having his first rest. And well, you look at this and I really don't want that. Although that's what the German papers are saying. You don't really want that job. On the other hand, it's a job that you do every 3 months. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get paid $10 million to do it a year. And it's only a 2-year deal. You just get us through 2026. And by the way, none of the games you're playing coming up are important at all. Absolutely none of them. The Copa thing, we flushed that down. We flushed that one down the toilet already. Cheers to whoever got us to 1269. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with your grandma.
I will say all of my points about Trundle isn't necessarily anything really against him as a coach. I'm just looking at him saying he's quite inexperienced. He has some experience.
Yeah. Jimmy said he knows Steve, and based on what he would know about Steve, is Steve would look at this and absolutely nobody else would take it. He probably would. But right now, I think he says even Steve would look at this and go, that seems like, give me 4 more years. Give me 6 more years. I got time. Let me, get some more coaching experience. Let me go head back to the Bundesliga. Although I don't think he would get a Bundesliga job anywhere but like Hanover or, I think that's probably the most likely place. And that's not Bundesliga. He'd be starting at the lower levels. But I think he'd do it just to get back to Europe eventually, because that's really what he wanted to do. He always wanted to coach in the Bundesliga. And if he gets a few years under his belt, I think that'll help. Zach Toomer for $4.99. We were 10 times better with BJ, who had literally 0 head coaching experience. Even Dolo is a significant upgrade from Gregg. I would agree he's an upgrade, but I'm not quite 100% sure if he's still not too nice. I think what we don't need right now is nice. I think we need slightly intimidating. I think
literally all inspiring.
Or inspiring but intimidating. You can have both. Klopp comes, you're kind of like, holy shit. I mean, except for guys that have already played with him before, like Pulisic might be like, oh yeah, hey, you're good.
I think, because I don't know how Klopp is as a person in that sense, or how harsh he is as a manager in that sense. But I don't think that's necessarily intimidating. I think that'd be more again awestruck or awe-inspiring.
Being awestruck can be intimidating.
Fair enough. It's fair enough.
Yeah. And you might play out of your boots for a guy that is slightly intimidating. Do I think Dolo is an improvement over Gregg? Yes. I'm not sure. That's saying a whole lot, though. We need Matarazzo. Here's my theory on Matarazzo. As he mentioned in the German press somewhere, that he didn't feel like he was treated. What was his words?
Imagine it's the same thing that Jesse was saying.
It was something close to that, but I don't feel like he felt he got treated well during the process. And it could be at this point, U.S. Soccer's like, man, you talking shit about us? Well, then fuck off. Because he was left off of several mainstream media lists of coaches. Potential coaches. It's kind of weird not to see Matarazzo's name on there, because I think people have been talking about him for a long time, and he has been a Bundesliga coach.
Whose name was on the list?
Who?
Hugo Perez.
Yeah, I don't think he has a chance in hell.
I know, but we were talking about that whenever the last time the list came up, and Hugo was never talked about anywhere.
Yep. I love Hugo, but yeah. I mean, he did magical things with El Salvador for at least a while. And with a team whose best players are all actually Americans.
Yeah.
And MLS players. So I'd agree with you. I'd really like to hear that we would try Matarazzo again. Give him a phone call, at least. Give him a phone call. What else we got? Did he get through his bullet points yet? I don't think so.
I don't know if all of them.
During that, so a guy that knows the players well, he knows the program well. Obviously, with less than 2 years to go to the next World Cup, they're going to need someone that can hit the ground running, and a guy that might be available. We'll have to see if LAFC lets him out of his contract early, if it comes to that. But a guy that I think there would be interest in if U.S. Soccer decides to move on from Gregg Berhalter.
That was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that was the pitch, man. That was the pitch. I don't know if it doesn't sound like people on X are real happy about it. That Dolo is not enough of an improvement. We got a freaking World Cup coming up in 2026. Shoot for the stars a little more. Even if it takes you a couple extra weeks or a month or whatever.
Boomer mentioned it a while back. Said 10 million a year isn't a lot if assuming that Klopp can get the U.S. further in the World Cup.
Yep.
I mean, he's gonna make assuming that the profits for where you go in the World Cup are going to increase. Obviously, last cycle I think the U.S. got like whatever it is. It's like $2 million for qualifying, and they got $10 million for getting out of the group. So there's $12 million right there. And again, the prizes are going to increase. So,
you can figure out a way. And if you're confident, and I would feel confident if I'm JT Batson, that if we got Jurgen Klopp as the manager, you're going to be rolling in sponsorship.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say right then and there. Yeah,
absolutely rolling.
I go back to the sponsors and say, hey, look, man, we just ponied it up for this guy. He's going to take us to the next, level.
Yeah,
bring it in.
I mean, that would excite most major corporations. Be like, man, we want to be part of this. We want to be part of this. Jurgen Klopp, are you kidding me? This is huge news. I mean, that's almost Beckham going to LA Galaxy size news when that happened. So we'll see.
Soccer USA says if we hire Klopp, ticket prices will be $2,000 minimum.
Let's hope they don't go nuts with that, because they're going to be making money on sponsors. They won't really need to gouge the customer. You would hope not.
I would think if you bring in Klopp, let's just say you bring in Klopp, I feel like you could almost lower the ticket prices and then sell out because of the energy around it.
I mean, I think the World Cup's a sellout anyhow.
Oh, I'm not even referring to the World Cup. I'm talking about the 2 years leading to the World Cup.
Oh, the friendlies even?
All the New Zealand would be a sellout at Arrowhead or whatever,
I think you're right. I think it would. I think Klopp's
I think more people would travel because they'd be more excited the fact that Berhalter's no longer there. I think a lot of people are not going. Ticket prices are obviously hurting it, but I think a lot of people are going like, why would I waste my money? I'm just going to sit there and watch on TV and yell at the screen instead.
So they go on to talk about Klopp. We don't have to play it. Basically saying, Jimmy's like, can I throw out a wet dream here? And how about Jurgen Klopp? And he says, well, yeah, Emma knows him really well. She considers him a mentor.
So is Keller, apparently. Keller knows him, too.
Keller knows him.
It's funny you mentioned, I'll throw this out there like a wet dream, but then look at Jimmy and Doug at the same time here.
Yeah. Betty Crocker knows him. So they've got a direct number for him. They could definitely give him a ring. He might be chilling out with a cocktail somewhere in Mallorca right now and doesn't want to answer the phone. But then Klopp tickled our nutsacks with this 4th of July tweet, right? I mean, I've never seen him celebrate the 4th of July before. So that was kind of like, okay, hold on. And then Tim Howard's like, I'll fly out to Mallorca myself and recruit him.
Yeah.
Hey, man, send him. Send Timmy out there.
It was Tim, not Keller. Sorry, that was my
Tim Howard.
I knew it was somebody.
Tim Howard said he's been in Klopp's ear with his tongue. I mean, I didn't know Tim Howard had a relationship with Jurgen Klopp.
I mean, I feel like that random troll or hint could be one or either there. It's the equivalent of a dual nat on Instagram removing one of the flags from his bio. At that point, you can start to kind of read into things, is what I'm saying.
Say that again.
So Klopp providing that Instagram video of him, saying, or an Instagram post talking about the 4th of July and remembering all of his trips to America.
Yeah.
Whether that's a troll or a hint, it could be either, is equivalent to the instance when dual nats remove one of the flags from their bio in Instagram.
Well,
It gives you you can jump to a conclusion at that point. It may not be a right conclusion, but at that point you can still say, well, this says something, right? So
yeah, I mean, I don't think that Fumer says was Klopp trolling us or subbing us. I'd like to think it's neither. I don't think he cares about subs. I don't think that. Why would he waste his time trolling us? Because he knows the talk that's going on over here. He knows it. That seems like a real serious tease. Otherwise, so I don't know, Brett.
maybe he's putting the earworm back in USSF to say, hey, I can still do this for $10 million. Hey.
I mean, I don't know what to think right now. And the fact that there was such a shutdown at U.S. Soccer today and a lockdown and no info coming out at all. Nothing. Which is kind of crazy. Usually you'll get a reporter coming out like a Jeff Carlisle, who is chummy with U.S. Soccer as they throw out their next narrative, right? As they're building the next narrative. Or maybe today was just all business. And it might have taken all day. This could have been a 6-hour meeting for all we know. But no one's talking. No one's saying anything.
Yeah.
So it's been quiet as a church right now. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Thank you, Timothy, for your $5. Razor time. I mean, it's, it is shit off or get off the pot at this point. It really is. Anything else you got to cover, Brett?
No, we had a couple other articles, but we're going on 3 hours here, and we've basically covered them all, I think.
We've hammered this home. We'll see you Thursday. I don't know about the guest coming on or not at this point. We'll see. I don't know if that would be helpful or not helpful. Honestly.
Well, I mean, if the announcement's Wednesday, mid this week or whatever, he might be worthwhile having on.
Maybe.
If he wants to.
If he wants to. We haven't heard back from him for a couple days, so.
Good.
Bob, your uncles for $1.99. USSF picks Terzic or Tuchel out of pure spite. Yeah, Pulisic will hate that, won't he?
So will Gio.
Yeah.
I think the Reynas may have another GeoGate worthy bomb if Terzic gets the US gig.
I think Pulisic would be fine with Terzic, but Reyna shit his drawers. But neither of them. Tuchel maybe, but I don't think Terzic is really a viable manager choice right now. That's the first time I've heard his name, actually.
No, Tuchel was rumored to be going to Milan, last I heard.
Oh, Jesus, I know.
But that was rumored, of course.
It's just a rumor. Hopefully Pulisic's on the phone.
Somebody actively trying to piss off the U.S. fans is what they're doing.
And his agent's on the phone going, hey, you can't. Don't do that. Please don't do that to me. I already did the Tuchel thing. I don't want to do it again.
Not like this.
Right.
Not like this.
I want to thank all 1,280 of you that were out here at one point. The night is getting old, and it is getting dark.
It is getting Derek. You're right.
It is time. Yes, it is time to hang up the phones and get back to whatever we were doing before. Make sure you subscribe, share it with your grandma. And if you ever need stepsister advice, this is where you can get it. Just let us know, and we'll help you out. Until Thursday, we'll see you soon.
That hurt.
And to me, it's nauseating. It's absolutely nauseating because
multiple mental health clinicians said that Derek had limited intellectual ability and was not capable of consenting.
Boom. Right? Change soccer in America forever.
Hella bugs out here.